by your focus in games being fractured by poor technology and a style that goes back to the 80s even if you were born in the 90s? Then look no further than ACG Slathered Junk. That's right, a new line ACG products that are guaranteed to improve your hip thrust, hip fire, and sniper headshotting kills. Where all other imitators just buy something from a company and have a sticker just thrown on it so they can sell you merchandise, which really only results in you walking around with their head near your tits. Not ACG, baby, no way. These are handcrafted by the skilled five-fingered mittens of yours truly, put together with an aim to increase your juice. Look at these headphones, spray painted with ACG right on their side, and you can't tell me that won't raise your game, elevate your heart rate, and make you the best high-test, low-rest motherfucker on the planet. We've got everything: jugs, mugs, skirts, shirts, burkas, guns, cars, headphones, webcams, earbuds, ear cams, face tattoos, and genital piercings. It's all there. Like I said, this isn't just the normal item pulled from the shelves like all other creators out there and then slathered with their name. These are made from genuine angel dust, and not the snortable kind, but the kind you get when you grab an angel and wring its body free of its magical powers that slowly dies to light the frozen fires of excellence in all our products. ACG Slathered Junk. I take care of you when no one else will. All the shit total BS, and like all other creators, it's not better than normal marketed brands, but buy my shit, please. In a world where first-person shooters are relegated to been there, done that status, a new contender has arrived. Today we announce Call of Karak 2, the Karakening Limited Unlimited Collector's Ultimate Exclusive We Ran Out of Fancy Shit Names Edition. Where other video game editions just give you a couple items, we here at Crack Design Incorporated Productions want to reward you, the gamer. Now we have marketing data that proves that all the other shit you get matters more to you guys than the game. So when you buy for a limited but ultimately unlimited time and purchase the Unlimited Collector's Limited Edition, you get DLC that'd be sold later in a complete package, a gun painted like a giraffe, a gun painted like you would probably paint it, a deck of completely unrelated Norway playing cards, a specially designed Zika-sized mask guaranteed to fit no one, and lastly, get access to the PC version early so you can beta test that bitch for us. But most importantly, for a completely unlimited time to make you feel like you need to rush out and get it, we have an oversized, completely ridiculous statue lit up with Christmas tree lights that we won't tell you how much it costs us to make, but you can bet some kid in China's pounding these out 20 a day while high-fiving a statue of Xi Jinping on his way out every morning. And to close this off, here's a list of bullet points that we needlessly make look like they're all in the special editions, but are actually just in the game. The game. A manual, like that's somehow special. An explanation of the modes right here because it's got numbers in it. It'll make you think there's more going on. And lastly, multiple times where we can use the word epic and massive to make sure that you feel like you're going into a Michael Bay movie. So buy now and join the epic, interconnected, massive, scorching, huge, big word, interactive, open, but really hub world gameplay experience. This is somehow already being claimed as a classic, an instant hit, and amazing by websites that haven't even fucking played it yet. So join us September never. Disclaimer, also not on early access services because we're shit with promises. And today, a special thanks to our new sponsor. Have you ever wanted to be a part of nerd culture but didn't have the money to jump into the newest graphics cards, expensive figurines, or YouTubers trying to sell you on 3D printing at home where they get a cut? Well, look no further. A company's found the perfect middle ground for people with just enough money to spend, but not enough to do anything useful with. Karak Crate, where you get a new crate of random Karak items every single month. Each month, a different box arrives at your door. Spatulas, used socks, my slightly bent and beat up cheese grater, or a cat. That's right, for only $14.99 per month, twice a month, you get a small crate sent to your house, just absolutely stock full of useless bullshit. Each pack is created to make sure that you get at least 4 rare items as well as 4 items that you won't have any fucking clue what to do with. Now, just some of the amazing things that you can get in your new Karak Crate: a pair of bloody scissors, used facial scrubber, 1/2 of a well-worn jockstrap, and the last ball of lint that my cat coughed up. Ladies and gentlemen, you won't find a better deal for something to make you feel like you're wasting your cash on crap anywhere else. And these items are nice enough to display proudly around your home as a member of the Karak Crate. Each comes with a stand made of genuine bullshit. The same bullshit anyone is trying to prattle to you like you're a rot-lipped gate mouth whenever they want you to pay for a mystery crate filled with useless shit just like this. So again, try Karak Crate. For just $21.99 per month, 4 times a month, each month, twice a month, you can get an amazing crate filled with stuff that you will have no fucking idea what to do with. Karak Crate, where strange comes to you. We're live. What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and I'm here with Absy and Silver. I mean, not Absy and Silver, Absy and Jonny. We just talked about Silver. Absy and Jonny for the best gaming podcast. This is already going really well. And then right before that, Absy's like, I hate the chat.
Did they hear me? Yeah, chat, I hate you right now, dude.
What,
oh my God, the conversations you're having.
Oh, what is
just
it?
Fighting
negative?
over the console, Starfield. I don't know what the fuck is happening.
Guess what?
Holy
You can't fight over it because it's not on one of the consoles. So, Merry Christmas. Close your eyes and imagine 60 FPS. That's what PlayStation owners can do. Regardless of that, sup everybody, welcome to the best gaming podcast. We are going to be talking about Starfield. We're going to be talking about a couple indie games as well. 2023, the rest of 2023. Our thoughts on Starfield, what it does right, what it does wrong, some of the review shenanigans that went on, and thought processes around that. Absy's got some questions about game development, or not a question, but a discussion he wants to have about game development, which is a good one, I think, sort of pops up, especially when you look at titles like this versus like No Man's Sky. So we've got a bunch to talk about. It's going to be a busy one. Hope everybody in here is having a good time. If you get a chance, tweet out that we're doing this, please. Put it on Facebook, MySpace, GeoCities, Alt Vista, Dave's Sega Saturn page. First page I ever saw on the internet when I was a child. I used my Sega Saturn with my broadband adapter, but it wasn't. It was a 56K plugged in and I remember Cadiz and I dialed into the internet, and we found a website that says Dave's Sega Saturn page. And I remember just realizing I was talking to somebody from like across the distance on the internet. It was that moment, that childhood moment where you're like, yes,
wow,
it's awesome. What have we been playing besides Starfield?
Nothing. What the fuck kind of question is that, man?
I just figured I'd ask it.
Baldur's Gate. I finished it this morning.
Baldur's Gate. There we go. Baldur's Gate. Yeah. So with Baldur's Gate, Jonny, finished it.
Done.
How many stars in a 1 to 8 scale would you give it?
1 to 8. You had to make it a weird
if
French
it's 1 to
system.
8 and it's stars, it's French, and a grading system like you guys use for school, where you have like different grades. No, what would you give it? Like, what would you say?
I give it like a 7 out of 8 stars in your rating system there.
Okay. 7 out of 8.
You just improvised
With one going away because of the performance and bug issues in Act 3?
There were performance issues. Mostly, to be honest, the narrative becomes a bit too loose in Act 3 for me. We were just talking about this. It's a little bit like a Pokemon game where you just run around the town talking to everybody, going everywhere, and that's how you progress, because there isn't that much structure compared to the other acts, where it's pretty much like you understand, what you're doing,
right?
More or less, the points you have to hit. So that was an issue, but I have to say, Act 3 also has some of the best shit in the game, and I'm sorry for cursing, but just for emphasis, because
we don't curse here. Let's be honest.
No, we're very clean.
Yeah.
We're basically the Seinfeld of
we really are the
podcasts.
Seinfeld of podcasts, for sure.
Truly.
No, continue.
Yeah, so some of the best moments in the game are in Act 3, and it's a very content-dense area where you just continuously find amazing stuff. And these different plot lines that are teased early and throughout the game start to come to completion, and each character has their thing going on, right? So all of it is done super well, and it's a very interesting story to the very end. Really, you're engaged and you're feeling like your choices really mattered.
So 17,000 endings, which one did you get? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the ending, though? Just as a generalization, do you feel like when you got done, I've heard many people complaining about the very end. So
yeah.
when you got done, were you like, how did you feel?
I felt like, despite playing Dark Urge, which some people complained it forced you into things, into different, I actually felt I was fully in control of,
right,
the outcome. There was a few specific moments where I knew for sure I could have gotten like an evil ending if I wanted. I chose a more sort of like good, positive ending, and for me that worked well. I also chose a bit of a self-sacrificial line. Almost in my head, I had this idea that I've done really dark stuff because of Dark Urge, and I have this redemption line, for my character, where he's been greedy. He's come into this amazing power that's, honestly, I was so OP towards the end of the game. I could I could solo with only my main guy,
right?
Because he was
for sure.
It was incredible, and I loved that power fantasy. But then at the same time, coming to the realization of, I have become too powerful. I am now potentially the bad guy.
Oh,
and
shit.
so I kind of decided to, kind of take myself off the picture in some way, or at least kind of step away. Anyway,
Exit
it was
scene
a
left.
very cool. Yeah, it was a very cool narrative that progressively formed in my head about where this character is going and all of this.
What would you say about playing it again? What are your thoughts?
I would need at least like 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
Jonny, did you notice any performance increase after the second patch that was released a couple days ago? I think
Good
2 days
question.
I would say it's overall more stable. I don't know if that patch did it. I noticed it gradually because there were several driver updates too. I don't know if you noticed, but for NVIDIA at least. And those also helped a ton. So I don't know exactly if it was a mix or, if it was the patch, but it was pretty stable in in the last week of playing. The FPS was better, still not great in the city, but definitely nowhere near the 11 FPS I got at one point initially.
Yeah, you were one of the ones hit pretty hard. I think when you look at Baldur's Gate, with so much stuff going on, there was some expectations that it would have some glitches and bugs, and it had less still, even with Act 3 coming in and going. It still had less than I expected. I said that thing was going to launch at like a 6, because we were talking about bugginess versus not bugginess, and we rated it. I think even with the Act 3 problems, it and the patches, I haven't got to play with the patches, and I played with the whatever version, we reviewers played with, and there were some issues. But overall, when I came out of that game, I was like, it does matter. Of course, you want to, tech does impact a review. I just saw somebody recently saying tech doesn't impact reviews, and I'm like, bullshit, because if you were painting and suddenly the color blue was missing from the painting in the sky, you would bitch.
Or
that's
you
just
get
an idiotic
dizzy
thing
from
to
the
say.
camera bob and fluctuating.
Or a story moment gets juddery, and you're like, that hit right when the main bad guy was announced. That kind of stuff. I think that Baldur's Gate shows that regardless of what people are saying, there is no genre that's dead. And that's what I think is exciting. There's no genre that's dead, dude. You see people, racing's dead. Fuck you, GT7.
Immersive
I didn't
sims
love.
are dead, dude.
Yeah, immersive sims are dead. Racing's dead. It's like
any
no, they're
genre
not.
is one great game away from
exactly
returning.
True,
isn't it?
Exactly. Any genre is one great game away from showing that it's not dead. They hibernate for a while. They go in a little bit of stasis. They like that, and that's fine. That's the way it should be. And there's always small games. We see this all the time. If racing isn't big, there's 10 racing games on the side that you can play. There's
Age of Empires 4 revived RTS a little bit.
Yeah, true. It did. It hit bigger than I expected, actually.
Yeah.
But you look at Civilization, you look at Age of Wonders, people are like, oh, Stellaris is the only one holding up that side of the game, and then you get Age of Wonders, and it's like, bullshit. And that's what's exciting about it. Ignoring the Steam concurrent players, I don't give a fuck about that. I mean, I do for the company if it's helping them, but other than that, personally, it makes no impact on me, because many times you have a Game Pass or PlayStation where it's on there, so those numbers aren't calculated.
That's what awesome. I'm hoping.
Go for it.
I'm hoping that Stalker 2 revives immersive sims or does really well so that immersive sims can be more.
Dude, I talked to people who played that, and they said Stalker 2 is legit a sequel 100% for Stalker 1 and is good.
Yeah.
And when awesome. I came out of that, I was like, what is even going on with games? If that's true, we're in a I don't even know what, and we'll talk about that in a second. We're in a Goldilocks zone. We're the little Earth going around.
Golden Age.
Jupiter's out there protecting us from bad games, and we're just like circling around going like, yeah. Just picking up like Sims when they get the plus when you do something good, and it's like plus smiley face, little emoji on Earth going around.
We're actually already seeing this phenomenon of other people releasing games that are, and they're calling it like Baldur's Gate inspired, or those light, I already got 2 emails about games like, oh, if you like Baldur's Gate, here's this new game you can check out.
Right.
That's like doing something similar. So this happens.
It's exciting. Super chats, $20 super chat from Mike Thu, I think is his name, TSUI. I think it's the T is silent. Karak, very clever intro to the Starfield review. Here's more Canadian money. Yeah, the Starfield review is awesome. I told these guys I had another part, so I do the reviews just sort of riffing, and I riffed at the starting that I had found a secret way for PlayStation owners to play it, which was by closing their eyes and imagining it. And I took that out because I thought that was just sort of, you know. But I loved poking fun at the bugs and the issues because I've been alive for every game ever released by Bethesda. Daggerfall I got into after it was released, which was probably the start of my gaming career. I've never, ever witnessed a Bethesda game that smooth. It had some bugs, you know, but it was nothing. It was nothing like what I expected. It was nothing like what I was gearing myself up for. I was like, all right, man, I'm going to have to, you know, do this and do that. I'm going to have to like hold this and hold that. And it is just stunning to me to come out of it. And there are some bugs. Just like Baldur's Gate, you know, the longer people play it, you get 1 million playtesters as of yesterday. There's probably going to be more people finding stuff, but it was so nice because it allowed me to sort of explore it and touch on it and see what truly was going on with no tech issues bothering me and dragging me down, like FPS in a city where you alt tab out to see if something's running. And so therefore you're no longer seeing the city interact because you're outside of it. Thanks to everybody who watched the review. Game's doing phenomenally well. It was 87 to 89 on Metacritic. I don't know where it is now, probably still there, which I think is honestly a perfect replication of sort of where it is.
And the review distribution was interesting because it just signifies that it's just not a game for everybody. You might like it, you might dislike it.
Yeah.
Because there were 10s and 9s, and then there were like 7s. There was not many in between ones, so it's either you're gonna like it or you're not.
Yeah, and I do want to point this out because people got mad at me. Rightfully so. You can get mad at anybody. You can get mad at a rock. I'm not going to care. But I do want to explain. The reason why I didn't tell people I had Starfield code was there's this manufactured shit that goes on about, oh, if you say anything bad about Bethesda games, you won't get their games. First of all, most Bethesda games, including their VR titles, I've bitched about. I also didn't like Redfall. I accidentally broke the embargo for Redfall by 12 hours. And I said it was the worst game of 2023. If anybody's not going to get a code, it's me. And I wanted the discussion to continue because I knew it wasn't true. And I thought this will be a perfect time. And I had people on Twitter going, well, so-and-so doesn't have a code. You don't have a code. It must prove blah, blah, blah. And I was like, your tweet's going to age poorly. Like, we're going to have to see. If there's anybody in the world who shouldn't have got a code, it was me. It did take a little bit of, discussion. I'll just be honest with you guys. It was an accident, but it doesn't matter. It's like when a rocket explodes, even though you're not in charge of the gasket, if it's your team, you still have to take responsibility.
Like and the buck stops.
The buck stopped at me, regardless of the software issue and stuff like that. And what I did was I just explained very clearly what had happened, and I showed details of what had happened. I was like, listen, I get it. I still think Redfall sucks. Like, you're not going to see any going back. And it was, Bethesda, Ubisoft, you guys know me. I don't like most Ubisoft games when they come out. I just don't. I like them, but I don't love them. And I usually say, hey, you know what? At $60, probably not. Like, maybe not. And they still give me codes. It's a manufactured, and in my experience, only in 8 years, but in my experience, such a travesty of discussion that when I had the ability to prove it wrong, I took it. I took it. I just was like, I don't think anybody even here knew I had it. And on Discord, I was saying I didn't have it. I was just like, I'm just going to pretend I don't have it because I've not got code for Death Stranding. That didn't mean that they hated me because I got code the next day for something else. Sometimes they look at all the people and they're just like, we're going to give some codes to different groups, and it happens. And any bitching to the opposite, I have proof. So proof beats your paranoia. And I get the paranoia because you've been burnt. So I'm not saying I don't understand where you're coming from. But I think it's time that we sort of look at it as something a little bit beyond that, where the company may not be happy with the honesty of what comes out of a review, and they might hold something. So, for example, if I lied about a game, or if I just hammered the company in my game review, there's a chance that company is going to be like, well, this guy's not even reviewing the game. Like, he's reviewing our company. So let him buy the game on his own. But if you review the game and you do a fairly decent job getting your point across, you'll probably get the code. And then there will be times when you don't. And that's life. Suck it up and quit bitching.
You know what else is life? People having different opinions. And,
dude, this has been nuts. I mean, it's been less with Starfield, strangely. I think what you said about the distribution has been pretty
but
understandable.
I mean, I think people should, the people who like it should just be glad of the fact that it's not streamlining to appease everybody. And then the people who don't like it can play other stuff and just accept other people liking it. You know what I mean? We're all gamers here. We like games. We just like games, and we don't need to constantly go to war about them. I think people are valid for not liking something and the way it's done, and at the same time, people are valid for liking it. And I think we should just accept each other for that.
I absolutely agree, and I think that the closer we get to honesty with that kind of stuff, the more everybody, including publishers, devs, will be like, okay, we are going to throw it out there. I mean, their job is to get positive reinforcement in some way, but it's like, if it's pretty honest, then the people who follow you can go, oh, he's honestly not liking it, but guess what? I'll like it. Like, I get where his honesty was coming from. I can bounce off him and say, oh, okay, he was honestly
like
describing
the things you don't like, I like, or the things
or
don't
this
like,
is okay with
like,
me. I've had people say, you know what? The shooting in this game, Karak didn't like it. It's okay with me. And that, as long as you draw a correlation and you're consistent, that's the positive. I think a lot of people review companies. That gets into reviews. You see a lot of that kind of stuff. We saw a Xbox game, I believe, get reviewed by a company where they said the game is good, but we're going to give it a low rating because Microsoft hasn't released a lot of games. That is so beyond the pale. That is so beyond, like, realism.
Eurogamer, I think, or
I don't know, but I know that if that popped up on my channel, I would expect to never get codes from that company again. And I would take that choice. Want to be dead?
Because you're judging like a meta thing around.
You're judging the meta. Ron 50, which I can't remember. Armenian, I think. Really glad you got the review code for Starfield, even if you had to do behind the scenes stuff to get it. Just kidding, kinda. No, there's a lot of sex. Simon Brady says, $5. What do you think of critics like Metro UK crying about not receiving early access? Should reviewers be so entitled? No. And I don't know about crying. I didn't see any of that. What I did see was I have an issue with words being used on Twitter that don't mean what they say they mean. And I did see somebody say we were blocked from getting code, which is incorrect factually. You do not getting blocked means you were owed something. It's like when somebody says they were cock blocked. It's like, not really. You weren't owed that. Like, up your game, bitch. Defeat me if you feel I cock blocked you.
Overcome the cock block.
Overcome it. The thing about being blocked is different than expecting. You can expect as in anticipate. But when you say we were blocked, that means you were going to get a code and somebody came in and quite literally said, remove from that. That's different than when your list is being created. You aren't on it. There's two. Sorry, but you weren't invited to the ball.
It's not an active
you were the
thing.
ugly person.
Like,
you're not invited to the dance. That's the way it goes. People need to be more realistic about it, because then their coverage is going to be more honest, and there's going to be more people who are like, okay, I get it. Like this, like, it may suck, but this person might have a review in a week or 2 weeks, and it might be a different thought process. Garageaholic says, thanks always for a great, honest conversation. No problem. Again, this is just my thoughts on it. Tipsy Tater, $5. I've seen a couple people I trust mention it's more fun to semi-focus on the main quest than to go off the rails. Any thoughts? If you mean Starfield, I think there's no proper way to play Starfield at all. So if you see somebody saying do this or do that, that's wrong. If you're hearing somebody say they had a good experience doing this, that's fine. This is what happened with Jonny and I talking about the Dark Urge in Baldur's Gate. The developers were way too close to their game, and they were telling people not to do Dark Urge. And I got to admit, if you want to tell somebody not to do Dark Urge, you're the developer, don't allow it. Don't be like, here's an option, and on Twitter, we're going to tell you not to do it. Because a great deal of people don't have Twitter. A great deal of your buyers won't be following all your stuff. That's the same way with Starfield. Do it the way you want. JP Mac Dawn 44 $10 super chat. I want to play Starfield, but I don't have an Xbox and I don't really want to buy one. I do have a Samsung TV that can stream games. Do you think it'll work for this game? Yeah, so this game's 30 FPS on your Xbox, and I don't see any issues with the bit rate or anything like that being a problem. The Xbox X version, which is the blades that you're playing on the cloud, look great. Don't know about GeForce Now. There's been some discussion. Will they come to GeForce Now? What have you? We don't know. But I would say there's absolutely no problem with playing this streaming. It is flicky, good combat for a Bethesda game, but it is not Call of Duty. You should be able to play it without,
Although the weapon designs are pretty fantastic.
Yeah, let's talk about it now. Let's get off this bullshit. Anyway, thanks for the super chats, everybody. It helps the channel because, I'm surprised Starfield. I don't even want to mention if Starfield's got demonetized yet. I haven't looked. All right, let's talk about Starfield. We're going to go with Jonny first because he's barely played. What are your first whatevers with Starfield? Just, it doesn't even have to be impressions, thoughts,
I'm
hopes,
gonna
dreams.
fully embrace my, positive and excited side that everybody expects from me. I think it's incredible how they.
Did he freeze?
Yeah, I thought it was thinking.
You're back.
No, he's back.
You're back, Jonny. Go for
My
it.
back.
Yeah.
Sorry, my
I know you've
internet
had
has
some
been a
internet
bit spotty.
problems. Right. Go for it. Go for it.
So I was just going to say, I think it's incredible how they populate spaces. So when you look at the interior of ships and buildings and stuff like that,
Right.
and I'm looking around, and for those, I go first person because I like to see it in great detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's amazing how they make it feel like, someone casually dropped that whatever half-eaten sandwich there, and it kind of makes sense, right? That type of stuff for me really brings it home. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but there's something about how stuff looks and even the font on things.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like from a good sci-fi movie or production that I would really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tech is kind of like, what would you say? Like a futuristic but scuffed.
Right.
It's kind of.
They call it NASA punk, by the way.
NASA punk? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So like in the Alien movies, kind of, where you see
yeah.
It's advanced tech, but it's right. There's something about. So anyway, they nailed that. I love it, and I'm really impressed with the gameplay as well. And I'm even playing with controller just to have the most like smooth and exploration experience. And even there, it feels really good. And the designs are amazing. I absolutely love how you can see, the bullets, right? And different guns have different indicators, super original designs. And even early on, I was rewarded for opening like 2 safes in a row, and I got like a cool weapon that had an amazing display for the thing. So I'm enchanted so far, but I'm super early, so we'll see.
Okay. Abzi, you've played 15, 10, 12 hours?
7 hours? 7, 8 hours?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you'd played longer. Okay, so you played 7, 8 hours. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'll start with the sound and the music. I think is very, very incredible. I think the music is some of the best we've heard. As for sound, Bethesda's always been good with satisfying sound effects for UI and for looting objects. Just that feel that it gives me, I like it a lot. But I'm just going to tell a story about testing the procedural generation in the game. Because I really want to. I was really impressed with what I got, and I don't know if that's going to continue in my playthrough. I know at some point I'll start seeing kind of the same stuff, but the first ever time I got my spaceship and I went up to space and I decided to land on a random zone on a moon, before I even did the first quest really. And I was very impressed. So aside from there was like a science lab with high level enemies. By the way, I really am glad that there's no level scaling. I hate level scaling in RPGs, and I really like the idea of going into some place where you're completely under leveled and there's just so many high level enemies that you have no option but to run away. It reminds me a lot about of Elix and like classic RPGs. So I really, really like that. And then I can level up and then come back and then kill them, right?
Yeah.
But in that procedural kind of zone that I landed in, I met smugglers that roped me into smuggling an item for them, and if I don't, they're gonna send people after me. I found doctors that landed, like they landed right in front of me while I was walking around. Not right in front of me, but a bit further away. They just landed and then they got out to like do their own thing. So I ran in and I stole their ship and just took off and added it to my fleet. Thank God I had lockpicking. I met a photographer outside of a cave. It's just like one of those wacky things where he was just taking photos, explored the cave and stuff. So out of these things, I was just like, damn, they actually, like, procedural generation isn't just some random outpost or some random areas to explore. They actually have some cool content to them that can have some interesting interactions. So I was really, really impressed with that fact. And I really want to explore it more and see how either repetitive it is or if it's just like very varied, and then maybe you can start quest lines that way. Other than that, I saw the first city. It's a fucking massive city, and it's crazy how many quests that you get just simply from walking around and overhearing
It's
people.
nuts.
I got around like 6 quests just from eavesdropping, and I was like, Jesus Christ. I joined the UC, which is the United Colonies, I think.
Yeah.
I learned about their war with the other faction, which is the Free Space, I think. Fuck, I don't know, but I read about that war and it was pretty cool. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I just wanted to really stress how much I'm impressed with the procedural generation so far.
And the lockpicking game is on fucking point.
The locking, yeah, I think the lockpicking game is one of the best we've ever had. Yeah, it's a
fun.
really fun puzzle game. It's a really fun puzzle game.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
I mean, the first time I did a lockpick, I was confused because I was like, what the hell is going on? And then I was like, it's tumblers that can be possibly used early or used late to get you through all the rings. And I was like, I don't know about anybody else, and I didn't know how it would be met, positive or negative. But I gotta say, that lockpicking game, I'm in, man. Like, whenever the lockpick comes up, I'll be in the middle of battle and be like, hang on, guys. Gotta lockpick this fucking.
It's the new Gwent.
Yeah, dude. It's good.
I went cyber runner. I'm wanted, and I have parents and an adoring fan. The thievery, I'm actually I don't usually pickpocket in Bethesda games, but in this one I'm fucking pickpocketing a lot. Yeah.
I would say, here's the example of 2 games where I never expected this to happen. Baldur's Gate I kept playing after review, and Starfield I played all night. I never went to bed, and that's after the review, which is just almost unheard of. I'm usually moving to something else, and I put a couple videos off to just keep playing because, first of all, I haven't got a bunch of repetitive content in 162 hours.
That's cool. So, yeah, I want to explore that further.
Yeah. I did notice a cave. One time I got a cave, and I quite literally was like, have I been here already? Because there wasn't a lot of stuff, and it looked the same. I was like, interesting, but no other time
has that popped up. Of the same.
Well, I think I might have went to like the moon next to a major city and thought it was a new cave, and it might have been the same one. What I like is when you land on... So let me explain the difference between No Man's Sky and this. No Man's Sky is great in the seamless Zen style, other than that it's consistently warning you about something. Hazardous this, you're out of this, blah, blah, blah. So it fights itself. No Man's Sky fights itself all the time. Be Zen, but we're going to make sure that you don't want to be Zen. But I still love it. I love the Flash Gordon, chromatic arboration. Like that game has just got a look and a feel to it. However, I'm not interested in the worlds in No Man's Sky aside from what we do to them.
Yeah.
There is terrible towns, terrible cities, terrible everything. And if it's not, it's handmade specific for a specific thing. Starfield's locations have enticed me every single time. It'll be like unknown, and I'll zoom in, and it'll be all array or a base or this or that. And I'll be like, interesting. And then I go. And I found some dude, this is the best story I've got. Well, it's not even a story. It's environmental storytelling, which Bethesda did well, Mad Max did well. A lot of these post-apocalyptic games do well, like Fallout. But what was awesome here, there's a guy who's dead, and he's written out in his journal. He's got his helmet off on a helmet-needing planet. He shot himself, obviously. And I go to grab his gun that's on the floor, and it's got 5 instead of 6 bullets. And I was like, that's pretty cool. It wasn't a huge thing. It wasn't a massive moment. It was like there were 3 or 4 little environmental storytelling steps that had occurred. And every place has had that, man. Every single place has had something. You go into a spot and there's people landing and you're like, oh shit, they're landing. You go out. Are they good? Are they bad? Can you steal their ship? Can you not steal their ship? Take out their people, go into a big battle inside their ship and constantly trying to take them out. Combat's good. I wish that Super Cruise was a thing in this game. I'm a big Super Cruise fan. Freelancer 2001 had it. Yeah, there's no real... You can do it. It took 12 hours to get to a planet. You can, but it's so long, and there's nothing there. That's the big problem I have with
Gotta
space.
wait the mod for it.
I have more of an issue with that, by the way, than the planet generation stuff. For example, I played 37 hours and 22 minutes before naturally running into a border. At all. On the ground. I have no issue with that. There was stuff everywhere. It's like 16 minutes if you go from side to side, or 25.
Yeah, what the hell is that? Dude, I thought that a barren would be barren with like one thing.
Yeah, no,
but
there's
it was
no barren.
like there's something like 2 kilometers away, something like a kilometer away, something
there
like
is
100
no
meters.
barren in that game. So they did two things wrong. They didn't explain that there really wouldn't be barren, but they also, we got the tweet later that said keep walking. Yes, you can, and you basically need to create a loading screen to go back to your ship, and then you can go right back down. That's a little hedgy. It's the way their tech works. Naturally, I didn't run into it, which is nice for, like I said, almost 40 hours. But it's there, and that's a problem to me. Another problem with this game, and it's a real problem, and it pisses me off because it's Bethesda. And every goddamn Bethesda game has 2 patches when they start. An official patch fix, which I don't know if that's going to happen, but this goddamn game's lighting is fucked. And it's flat. And this is something that people have been brought up. People thought the HDR was broken or the SDR was broken. You go into one spot and it's crystal clear. It's like crystalline. It's like looking at 10,000p resolution. And then you go to another spot and there's a fog, white color spectrum, piss filter like Deus Ex, or green ass sick TB filter like Fallout. And it angers me to no end, man. When I go to a spot and I'm so excited, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I go down into the depths of some alien place, which, by the way, Starfield nails spooky like no game has other than Far Harbor for DLC. There's spooky parts in this game. And I'm down there in the spooky part, and I'm like, what is wrong with the lighting? And I talked about this in the review. I fought that lighting for fucking 4 hours. I was like, up, down. Oh shit, the footage is gonna look messed up if I'm recording at this, but it's like it's bothering me. What's going on? And it's in the places. Bethesda, what are you doing? Like, it's in the places where of all the goddamn things you would want to do, it would not be fuck up the lighting. And I know they've got global illumination, and it looks great. In many places, this game looks phenomenal. But in other places, they have a very real artistic slant, which I support. I support artistry. Do what you want, but I'm going to bitch if it looks bad. And that's what I'm doing right now. It's unacceptable that the very places that you want it to be perfect, it is shit. And when I go downstairs into a basement with 2 lights, I don't want it to look like somebody creamed all over my fucking monitor. And that's what it looks like. It's just gray, and it doesn't pop up a lot, but when it does, unfortunately, I probably ruined it for a lot of people. If you haven't seen this, that's an issue for me. It is frustrating to fight something while you're reviewing it. And I fought that shit continually. It didn't stop me from liking the game. It just really was disappointing.
I think that's why a lot of people are, I guess, downloading some reshade stuff.
For sure.
There's a bunch of reshade stuff going around.
Yeah. That game looks... There's so much good in that game. How do a bunch of developers sit in a room and see this grayscale and not have a monitor that is tuned so that they can say, why am I squinting? Why does everything look gray? What is going on? So that's my big bitch. Inventory is rough. I do love that it gets pretty heavy at times, so I'm constantly doing drugs, like just willing drugs to carry more.
Drugs. Yeah.
Oh, dude, and you unless you build a landing port at your outpost, you can't take outpost items to build stuff. You have to put them on your guy and walk over there. So I had 2,200 pounds, and so my oxygen would go like. So I spent 30 minutes going, and just trying to get there. And then I got there and I was missing one iron. And I was like, oh my God.
Damn, dude. Oh,
yeah,
no.
That sucked, man. Shipbuilding, though. Probably the best shipbuilding I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah, I haven't gotten into it yet.
Taking your ship apart and putting it back together, and it completely changes the way the ship feels inside. It is nuts. It is absolutely the best shipbuilding. It's like Lego. You grab a ship and you're like, screw it. And I just took all the parts, laid them around like a kid doing his own custom Lego. And then it warns you if you've screwed up. It'll be like, hey, this pod needs to be here, or you can't get to the cockpit. And I'm just constantly like moving it and going and moving this and changing this. And then you jump in the ship and suddenly your people are, below you in a different part of the ship or above you. And then when you do jobs for factions, they give you parts which look phenomenal, like awesome looking. So you change your cockpit even, and it feels like the entire game's changed. I changed my cockpit to 3 flying it and 3 on each side. And when you get people in there and they're all sitting, pushing buttons, it's just, so good.
Star Trek.
Real quick, I want to read these super chats and then and then you'll go. Let me verify. I missed some here. Danny Passion says, ads on a live streaming show. Great review, though. Yes, you're right. I tried to stop that ad. I apologize. Ads normally don't run, so I don't worry about them. Bob, $2 super chat. Some procedurally placed POIs have good storytelling. Yeah, Bethesda's known for that. I think we can all agree. Bethesda's, that's sort of what they're known for. Silent Giant, $5 super chat. Do you think the Starfield is worth purchasing an Xbox S4? Well, I will tell you this. The S puts in the work on this. I played the S last night, and I played it a little bit during the review. I was pretty stunned at how good the S works, especially in some of the bigger areas. Buying, it's still cheaper than a video card. I would say try to see if the cloud version is going to work and play it on the cloud. And if you like it on the cloud, which is only going to cost you 15 or 19 for premium when it comes out on the cloud.
Yeah, because there's a chance you might not like it.
There's a chance you might not like it.
It can be boring for people, for sure.
Yeah, so play it on the cloud, and if you like it, then I would say that's going to be your choice. Wizard of Smoke, $5. Happy Friday. Glad to be off today to play Starfield and catch y'all. I agree with the lighting. I recalibrated my HDR in the opening mine area. By the way, that's another thing. Come on, guys. Your opening sucks. I'm just going to say, and yes.
Like the first 2 minutes that you just go in? The
mine, when you're walking around, it doesn't even do anything that, like, in fact, it removes the Starfield from Starfield. It's like underground in a mine, and you're all, what am I doing in here? And then you do something, you're like, why did I just do that? And then the guy's like, this is a piece of shit. Ship, you can have it, and you're all right.
Yeah, that was very odd.
Oh,
that was very odd.
It's a fucking.
It's like, I touched something, and now this guy's giving me a shit.
Yeah, it's just like blah blah blah. Now again, I can't explain more because of spoilers. Reviews are out, but they've asked us some stuff to be cagey on. I will say it's got the best N+ game I think I've ever seen, and I'm not an N+ fan. But their N+ game. Kudos, man.
Okay, don't say shit, dude.
I'm not saying anything. Shit. I'm just saying, fuck. You guys know me.
I'm gonna get to it in like 500 hours, dude.
We just had this discussion last podcast where I'm like, dude, N+ games don't get me. N+ games got me. Like, I was all, what the fuck? Because it does exactly what I wanted when I talked about him last week. So that'll be it for that.
Shit? Wait, is it some near shit?
A lot of people mentioned Nier Automata in Twitter, I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
There's some things they need to fix. I think Starfield for Microsoft, though, is probably, I think they would have wanted an 8 or a 9 from IGN and that kind of stuff. But the nice thing is that IGN, we were talking about this prior to the podcast, IGN has like 17 million subscribers and they only have like 1 million views on their reviews.
Yeah.
So their review content has become almost negligible in its percentage. I think a lot of people are starting to look at it just being like, whatever. It is what it is. It's unfortunate that Metacritic weighs IGN higher than everyone else, meaning if they give it an 8, it would go higher than if I gave it an 8, blah, blah, blah. OpenCritic doesn't do that. I don't really see an issue with even a 5. I haven't seen a 5. I know that one exists. They would have to, I would need to see the description and, not just it's not for me. There's a difference. I've had games that aren't for me, Pentiment, where I'm like, this is for everybody else. This is awesome. Get it. I just didn't like it. I would have to see with Starfield what those issues were. But I think overall, when we look at these kind of games, it's Microsoft and Bethesda, more Bethesda than Microsoft. They got something to be proud of. It's been.
It's a return to form. With improvements.
Yeah.
Climbable ladders. I was like, what the fuck? Am I playing a Bethesda game?
Ledge climbing in a Bethesda game?
Climbing.
What the fuck?
Dude, what the hell is going on?
Who woke up and thought Bethesda was going to have you have the ability to grab a ledge? Bethesda does not do that. I will say firing and shooting I love for a Bethesda game. But there is, I said in the review, a bit of the stick up your ass. When you move in a Bethesda game, I know it's Bethesda. I don't know how to describe it. It'd probably take me 10 years to figure out why. But when I move sideways in a Bethesda game, from Skyrim to Skyrim VR to Redfall to not Redfall, but to like the Fallout games, to the old games, Morrowind even, I know it's a Bethesda game. That continues here, but it's a quicker, flickier, faster, more responsive Bethesda game. Which I got to give him kudos for. Souls and Things, $20 super chat. Hey, Karak, I've been watching you since Total Biscuit passing away. When I asked Reddit who was comparable, and I got to say you were right, or they were right. You're the most trustworthy opinion in gaming. Thank you. I don't agree with that. And that's not being humble. I'm just saying, well, thanks. But, I mean, there's a lot of trustworthy people in gaming. But thank you very much. It's always nice to be mentioned with Total Biscuit. He was nice enough to let me on his podcast, to ruin his podcast. I remember when I said, man, of all the things that matter in the world, very little it's game reviews. And I remember Dodger was like, oh, because she thought Total Biscuit was going to get mad, but he and I had talked about it prior, and we were like, in the scheme of things, because I believe at the time he was ill and stuff. We were both like, come on, like really, what matters? Like cancer treatment improvements or Starfield, and what does Karak think? People take themselves too fucking serious. Video game reviews, this matters.
By the way, people are so jaded and talking about game releases being terrible and every game is a disaster.
Yeah.
But we've had 2 giant games come out this month, which is maybe not the exact month, like but in the space of a month. Within a month, right? Baldur's Gate 3. Starfield, huge RPG games, which many of us thought high chance of them being very buggy, having lots of issues. And sure, there have been some, but I have to say, man, I'm very impressed with the state in which these 2 games have released overall, based on, what Starfield only based on reviews, because I haven't fully played it yet. But
Baldur's Gate, a full playthrough.
Yeah, I'm just so encouraged to see that it's bullshit. This thing that people say, oh, we're in decline, all the games are a disaster, every game is terrible. No, man.
Well, if someone says that in 2023, they're just delusional, I think.
Who does Karak recommend for game reviewers? Without a doubt, writing on games, and I'll say it for the rest of my life, writing on games is by far the best reviewer. You won't always agree with what he says, but I've never in my life experienced somebody who can write the way Seamus does. Writing on games, like, I don't think I now have anybody I'm subscribed to on YouTube, because some of them go off on companies. Like if a Ubisoft game comes out, I just know what the review is going to say. Like Activision, I just know what the review is going to say. Seamus from Writing on Games, that's what he's called, I also like Jonny, Happy Console Gamer. I think I like Happy Console Gamer. He's a little more happy. Don't know. Like that's sort of his shtick. But I like his stuff. But Writing on Games is there. His breakdown of levels and stuff he likes. Sometimes it's repeating stuff other people have said, but that's life. Like we only have a certain number of words in the English language, so some things are going to be repeated. If you're talking about Hitman, you're probably going to say the word assassination, so you'll see that. But what I don't like, I'm not even going to say what I don't like. I would say he's the only one I have subscribed to. Him and I do actually have Happy Console Gamer subscribed to. I like Metal Jesus Rocks a lot as a person, but he doesn't do a lot of reviews. He does a lot of retro, and that guy is behind the scenes is probably one of the coolest dudes I've ever witnessed. And then if you want Let's Plays, Fighting Cowboy is always good for Let's Plays. We disagree on some stuff when it comes to like the game's quality, which is fine.
He's been doing some Armored Core content.
But his Let's Plays and build data is easily the best I've ever seen. And unlike like other channels who are like, give me 5,000 likes and I'll do part 2. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. Nothing is more annoying than that. Fighting Cowboy has only stopped 3 or 4 games in his entire career, where it's like, hey, I'm not enjoying it. Like, I'm not loving it. He did Atlas Fallen, which isn't the greatest game in the world, and I think he's done. He did a ton of videos. So those are my choices. But if you guys are not subscribed to Writing on Games, you're missing out. Let me verify we don't have a super chat. Quality of Life, Hush Al Ghul, $10 super chat, Quality of Life. You can sell stolen items to the Trade Authority outpost, not the kiosk. If you buy them back, it removes the stolen indicator. I didn't know that. That's funny. You know what? I don't think I ever sell or worry about stolen stuff. I'm going to let my dog out. I usually don't stress that stuff. Do you guys worry about the stolen stuff? Is it popped up?
I've been stealing stuff, but I haven't.
Yeah.
I don't know the mechanics behind selling them or not. I haven't tried to sell them.
Yeah, I would agree. Like I just grab them and wear them. Oh, that's another thing.
I'm mostly stealing ammo and money from people's pockets. Yeah.
Let me tell you another thing when it comes to this game that bothers me. When I go into a friend's inventory and I try to address them, it's me. So when I put a helmet on a person, it doesn't switch to the girl. It still shows me. So when I say go to, I can't remember her name, but go to Sarah's. Let's say I say go to Sarah's inventory. Sarah doesn't pop up on the screen. And I don't know if that's a bug on my side, but it's my guy. And then I say equip, and it shows it on my guy, but it equips it on her. It's it's the weirdest. So when you go into her inventory, Abzi, are you seeing her?
I'm not seeing any. Like when I go into her inventory, all I see is a screen with the stuff she has, and then the option for me to put items in her inventory.
You should be seeing her standing there. So when you say equip by hitting Y,
I just got the ability to. I just got like the actual crew. Like now I have crew members for I got assigned people and stuff. So that I might have not had that interaction capability before because I just got Sarah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll try it. Yeah. Anybody in here? If you guys know what I'm talking about, if I'm wrong and I got a bug, in fact, it bothered me, but it wasn't even bad enough to bitch about. But I was like, what is happening? Why is it showing me? It's a little confusing to be like, I'm dressing myself up in her clothes. And then when I leave and getting her to dress, here's another thing I don't like. Armor and clothing are different, right?
Yeah.
It can be difficult to get them to dress in the stuff you want. You have to switch show armor in your inventory and then go into hers and put it on and then tell them to equip it. And
yes, there's a lot of things with the UX that needs improvement.
Yeah. That was sort of bothering me. But dude, I mean, it's so cool to see these games. It's so cool to see Starfield do well. A lot of people compare it to No Man's Sky, which day one, I like this more than I like day one No Man's Sky by a great deal. But No Man's Sky has continued to, patch and DLC. Oh, you are right. Inventory is... Oh, no, he's not saying I'm right on my part. He's just saying inventory is the worst. I would like to know, anybody else seen that? Like I said, that when you go in and... Oh, yeah. Yeah, Blinky says, looking up writing on games, the first videos, you should be save scumming. I agree completely. If somebody's bitching about save scumming or has a problem either way, just go. Leave me be. Is anyone sworn to carry your burdens? The only person you should trust for reviews are yourself. Yeah, if you have unlimited money, I would agree. I see that a lot of times.
I love how my companions are super aware of the fact that they are pack mules, and they're like, "Yep,
yeah,
you're gonna give me items now, and I'm gonna put in my inventory, so just give them to me." And I'm like,
and
all right.
if you have too much, does your chick say like, "Dude, why are you picking everything up?" Like my character says that all the time. Yeah. So if you pick up too much, she'll be like, "Why are you?"
I've only had Sarah for a few minutes, or like 30 to an hour, while I'm doing like other side quests and stuff in the city. And her input, there's a lot of input from the companion about stuff, which is cool. Yeah,
it's been very great.
Liking and disliking. Yeah.
Glitch says he thinks I didn't see his super chat, so I'm going to go all the way back. I don't. Glitch, I don't see your super chat at all. It didn't pop up. Let me look. You guys want to scroll back and see if you find a super chat from Glitch? Says I missed it, but I'm looking here. Looking.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I don't see it, but Glitch, type it in, and we'll normally don't do another super chat. But yeah, I don't see it either. GSD, getting stuff done, $10 super chat. I agree that we're seeing a renaissance in gaming right now since 1998 to 2007. But how do you feel about gaming performance on PC? CPU, GPU, FSR, DLSS games optimized to need those technologies. Great show. I think, this is just me, I think that it's nice because the Steam hardware survey we talked about is indicating people have ancient technology and it's time to move on. I don't like that DLSS is required for some of this, but man, we need to move on. People are running 1050 Ti's or whatever, and they're trying to get 4K.
1660 Ti's.
1660 Ti's, and you're like, what are you doing? Like, why would you bitch about that? You're playing on a calculator now. Like, we need to move on. Half of these new technologies are going to require it. I do get what he's saying about DLSS. It needs to just be in the game like a console. Like seamless. If you're going to need FSR DLSS, just put it in the engine so that the output already runs it or something. I don't know.
Oh, right.
Like, because consoles, we've been fine with that for a long time, but not for PC.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Johnny.
I had to download the DLSS mod from Nexus Mods, and that helped my performance a lot.
The DLSS mod is nuts for performance. Yeah, Johnny, go for it. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say it's cool to see FSR do pretty well. I've been pretty impressed with the way it works in this game. I think it looks incredible. I'm playing in 4K, and that thing looks sharp. It looks awesome.
Yeah,
haven't had any issues with it.
Yeah. I should point out also that FSR and DLSS are not at all required in Starfield. You just have to adjust the settings. And so when a game says Ultra 4K, if you think two games that are doing Ultra 4K are going to have like-for-like performance, even on the same engine, you're woefully misinformed. It depends on the way the game is running. What it's got is its viewpoint. There's just an absolute incredible number of variables. And if it's an Assassin's Creed game, don't turn clouds on Ultra.
Lowering ambient occlusion gave me a lot of performance increase.
And by the way, I turned down ambient occlusion, global illumination by one click, and contact shadows. And I got to tell you, I spent a lot of time going, is that going to be noticeable? No. And I got like 9 FPS back. It's when Ultra becomes future-proofed that we start to see these big hits. Hush Al Ghul, you can only sell Soul and Stuff to Trade Authority or Crimson Fleet. If you go to the regular vendor, they don't show up. Found quality guns that I stole, and if you get arrested, they take them away. Yeah.
Oh, you guys got to also realize different vendors, depending on what the vendors are, will pay differently for different things in your inventory, you know, obviously. And stuff you're just limited to selling, like you're limited to selling medical stuff to a doctor, you're limited to selling weapons to a weapons dealer, and so on, yeah.
Glitch says the first big Bethesda RPG under Microsoft umbrella seems to be their most bug-free. That makes me hopeful for future Microsoft releases. Ooh, somebody's knocking on somebody's wall.
Fucking
I don't know what
something.
to think about that, man. I don't know. You know, I stated the same thing about Redfall. You have Phil Spencer coming out and apologizing for Redfall. Sorry, man. That's not on Phil. That's on them. This was done way prior. In the same way Starfield was done, I'm not going to give a bunch of kudos to Microsoft. Maybe the kudos should be that they didn't pressure them to delay, but Bethesda was the publisher anyway. So I don't know much.
Same with, like, when Days Gone released at the state, I wasn't blaming Sony, right? It was just was the devs.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, these are the devs, you know, that it's unfortunate, but at some point you're like, you know, this is their quality that they're able to output in a certain amount of time. And in this case, I think Bethesda is where the quality is. I don't think it's from Microsoft, you know.
Do you think they augmented their capacity for testing or QA or any of those processes?
Microsoft built about 7 years ago. There was a news article about Microsoft building a test facility just for games. And I believe it was like 10,000, you know, simulated PCs and all that kind of stuff.
So that could have contributed, right, to like less bugs overall?
It could have, but I don't know if it contributed to what I'm experiencing other than
as a whole, like
right. Yeah. I just don't know is what I'm saying. And I feel weird saying that it's Bethesda's fault for Redfall and then trying to turn around and say it's Microsoft's gain for Starfield. It doesn't feel fair.
It's not
to
conclusive, right? Because
it's not.
Since we don't know like the involvement exactly, we can't really say.
It'll be conclusive in a year or two. And then I think we'll start to see it. Wild One says, have you heard about the new technology breaking optimization? About new technologies breaking optimization. Also, as much as it needs to catch up, FSR, I really want to win instead of NVIDIA. I don't really know. Have you heard about the new technology breaking optimization? Does he? I don't know what that means. I think maybe he means like Unreal 5.
Oh, does he mean because there's now a handicap kind of thing with DLSS and FSR that devs won't optimize as much?
No, because that was earlier. I agree. That is a thought. He's saying like maybe new technologies making it more difficult to optimize, but not DLSS, more like global illuminations or ray tracing.
Or new engines.
Or new engines.
Like that.
We all know Unreal added a feature, which is stutter. Sorry. But Unreal 5 has turned out to be the travesty of gaming right now.
Like the stutter fest we got for a few days.
Have we ever seen a game engine basically state, like, here's some options, and then we all know whether they announce it or not, one of the options is going to be extra stutter in your game. Like, it is. It's just what it is.
Is that still an issue with Unreal 5?
Right now, yeah. I mean, we've got one or two games that have almost fixed it.
Because Remnant did pretty well, right, with it.
And Remnant did well with Nanite. But Atlas Fallen supposedly had Nanite, and Atlas Fallen had pop-in. And so
hopefully
did Immortals.
Wukong is good.
Immortals had pop-in. Immortals had pop-in, and I remember going like, they were like, yeah, Nanite's going to fix this, going to fix that. And I was like, I'm sorry, I have no clue what you mean, because there's pop-in in this game. So Nanite didn't fix shit. That bothers me. Let's see. MS will always be relevant. The money they make is crazy. I mean, most of us here, MS, we don't even think Xbox. I see MS as always that's JD. Whatever you wrote, I'm not getting. I'm not understanding that post. I apologize. I tried to read it, but it's sort of going everywhere. Corey Tidwell, $5 super chat. Microsoft's advanced technology group has been working with Bethesda for last year. Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't really have anything to do with the core content. I think the core content's been locked in for a long time. The generation, the locations, that kind of stuff has been locked in. With Starfield, I'm going to go and look on Twitter because I asked everybody to have any questions. Do you guys have any thoughts, further
I
stuff?
wanted to bring something up, which is the gamepad versus, mouse and keyboard conversation. And for a game like this, I was debating, right? Okay, which one am I going to do for my first playthrough? I ended up deciding gamepad. There's something about the kind of tactile, nature with the joysticks that I like about controlling the camera and sometimes just exploring. It just feels a bit better for exploration when that is my focus.
Right.
How do you guys feel about it? I know you've played way, I think Abzi, you now have a lot of hours too.
With Bethesda, I love keyboard and mouse. I mean, I really like their controls. Their default controls are always awesome. Using tab, E to use, and I've always been a fan of their keyboard controls. So I've stuck with that. But no, one thing that I really hate, which controller has the upper hand is that when I hit caps lock to walk, I RP walk slower than the motherfucker that I'm trying to walk behind.
Yeah, right.
I know.
And that could easily be resolvable with controller, or if we had fucking put variable walking speeds with my mouse wheel or something. I love that idea. Tarkov did it. I think Splinter Cell did it. I really want that. Have that. You could fix all our issues with walking on. But yeah, the walk speed is slower than the NPCs, and it bothers the shit out of me. So,
and I would say that I also agree that when it comes to inventory and movement and UI, Bethesda games work better with a mouse and keyboard because they're pretty complex. But I like Bethesda games with a controller and the way they just feel overall. So they don't feel as responsive as I want on a mouse and keyboard. So I feel like sometimes there's a lag in a mouse and keyboard on a Bethesda game because of their animation systems and how they do things. So I like the movement and, like he said, the variable movement allowed in a gamepad. I like all that. But I hate trying to work some of their systems with a gamepad. Sometimes you're just like, and then they do soft stuff in this too. Not a ton, but they got a bit of lag between buttons. So like you'll hit back and sometimes you'll be like, did you pick up on that? Are you going back at some point? And then it'll be like, whoop, and it'll pop you back
I
out.
noticed that a little bit.
Yeah, that bothered me. Going real quick through the questions. Danawin says, hey, CGA, I really like Mission Impossible as a show and movies. Do you guys think we'll get a Mission Impossible new game in the future? I don't know, but that would be awesome. Imagine disguise systems, the Mission Impossible masks, putting those on. I think all that stuff is great. I would love to see a Mission Impossible game. We're getting, what's the game we're getting from the Hitman guys? Come on, Karak. It's not Hitman. It's
007?
007. Yeah. So if they do well,
have we heard anything about that?
Not yet.
James Bond, dude. We haven't had a James Bond game in a fucking long time.
Been a hot minute since we've had a James Bond game. Fumo says the procedural generation of content become predictable at any point. So far, not for me. Other than when you land at an supposedly empty spot on a planet. There will be something. So I guess in a way you could say at some point you could be like, I truly want a barren planet, which is going to be a weird discussion to have because all the discussion was bitching about barren planets. And at some point I know somebody's going to be like, why is this place not barren? And you'll be like, there we go. Full circle. That will happen.
So I did want to ask you, sorry, real quick on that, right? They have landing spots that you can choose, which are like predefined where there's stuff, right?
Yeah.
What happens? What is the experience? You kind of discuss it in your review, but what is? I know you can land anywhere, but what is the average experience of you landing in just the ass end of a planet? And
3 to 9 locations, a bunch of plants, a bunch of animals with prey systems, which is cool. So you'll have like animals hunting each other, and then you'll get random spawns of you'll get ships landing near you that you can go and steal, or they can attack you. Depends on your background too, because not just the wanted background. There's other backgrounds in the game that can impact people coming after you. Things you've done if you have a bounty and you're in a busy spot. I talked about this in the review. If you want to have a bounty a lot, it would make sense to go to a barren planet because the actual system traffic is lower. So the actual people you meet in space will be much lower, and the chances of being caught or scanned if you have illegal stuff or a big bounty is much, much lower in those spots. So personally, I would say the barren spots are better. That would be my overall consensus.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's almost backwards, but I would say I've enjoyed the barren spots more than the others, because the others are usually a story thing.
It's going to be an outpost,
it's a city
or like
or an outpost. Yeah, dude. The exploration is just fun. It's got its issues, but I
because they don't have a vehicle, so that's one thing I worried about.
Well,
like,
you know,
is the exploration gonna?
That's nuts.
Yeah.
Some of those jetpacks, I don't know. Did you pick a skip jetpack or a power jetpack, Absy? The power one is the one that launches you straight up.
I just got my first jetpack and invested my skill point in jetpacks, and I got that from Constellation as like the first.
Did you get the skip one that allows you to use it like 4 times and then move
I
forward?
got the one that lets me double jump, basically.
Double jump,
so
okay.
far.
Yeah,
Double
so
jump.
there's a skip, there's a power one, and what I found, I was talking to Lord Cognito, and he was like, once the power one, once he got that, it changed his entire way of gaming, because he was like flying up on top of rockets and looking down. What I like is the skip one for exploring. So yes, you don't have a vehicle, but the skip jetpack is insanely fast. So you don't, which I think we would all love to have a vehicle, but then you would also have to look at what else would I do? Would it just be more, things to find? It's a fine line. I get where they were going. I think there's issues, but I get where they're coming from. Dave says, I've heard many reviewers recommending you mainline the story, do side quests. Can you please talk about that? Again, the main thing I'm going to say is,
asking about that.
Yeah, I personally think no issue whatsoever. Deep State says, many complaints about the fast travel system from your ship to planets breaking the sense of immersion. The sentiment being possibly Bethesda went too ambitious. I brought this up, and I agree. Bethesda made it too easy to fast travel. I fully believe that. I've talked about fast travel in Dragon's Dogma as well, being like you can skip things too easily, and sometimes the journey matters. In Starfield, man, if you've been to a spot, you can be like randomly on a planet somewhere and be like fast travel to this spot, and it's so quick on the load. It's like bump, bump, and you're in the new star system. And I'm like, oh, it's good for people who want to do that, but for the sense of like I'm traveling, it's a I called it a missed opportunity, but I don't even know if I'm right. It would
That's
be more
one
like
of the things I'm modding first is exactly that.
So that maybe fast travel requires the view of the ship.
So that there are also things like, for example, having a boost drive in my ship, so I won't have to fast travel if I want to go to a faraway planet and not spend hours to get there, and just stuff like that, and not being able to fast travel easily, or it costing something,
Yeah, costing something would be great, right? Because the game has a survival system that blows my mind. Torn muscles,
dude.
broken
Okay, so
bones,
that's the thing. Yes,
dislocations,
that is. I was
burns.
very surprised with that. So you don't have to eat or drink, but like I went into a med bay and I got a list of things I can craft, and there are so many treatments for so many different things, like lacerations, like head trauma, like fucking a heart stroke. So many different things. And I was like, damn, there's a lot of systems in this. There's so many resistances and gear and weather effects, and it's very RPG. Which I like.
I loved that because it makes the Zen part easy. You can sit on a planet and watch Jupiter go by, or a moon, I guess, at that point. If you want, it's more Zen than No Man's Sky in that way, where there's just less of those things constantly saying, gather this, gather that. But they have all those options for repair and treatment. If you turn the difficulty up, you're going to be screwed, man. I came off of a building one time to fight mercs, and I hit too hard, and it was like torn muscle, broken bone, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, uh-oh. And then your weight limit goes to like 90. And I had like 300 pounds worth of gear, and it was instantly like where I could move 2 feet. And I was like, oh, no. And I was not thinking.
Yeah. And I love how different food can give you different buffs and stuff.
Yeah, persuasion buffs.
And
I'm
capacity.
the cheesecake eater, man. I always buy what's it called? Chunks. The store is called Chunks,
right? Dude. Okay,
that thing is Chunks, hilarious,
dude. So there's these little squares or blocks,
foil sealed,
cubes, cubes of food. And I went to the place and I saw all their menu, and I was like, okay, this cheesecake looks so good. This cookie looks so good. And then it's like grilled chicken. I'm like, oh, and then it's like
fish,
wine or beer
or whatever.
Like,
in a cube, wine in a cube, and you're like, I don't know if I want to test that out, man. Dude, there's so many survival aspects. That's why I tell people you can play it on any difficulty, you can play the main, you can play the side, whatever. But just be aware there's a lot of systems that when you up the difficulty, things matter more. And in a way, I guess fast travel matters more, and you might want to do that more than. But here's the thing about the fast travel that bothers me. If it showed fast travel the way I was expecting, go here, you see it, blah, blah, blah. You would have more chances of being interdicted by enemy ships, which go away when you fast travel because it does a straight load.
It takes
That
away
is-
from the whole point of meeting. Like,
Right.
I've met people in space, and
Yep.
people have hailed me, and
Oh,
you can
dude,
find
did you have the
derelict
tour
ships
bus
and-
yet? Did you have the party ship?
No,
Oh,
I had
I
a
don't even-
fucking
dude,
dude.
I had
a bounty
Woo!
hunter.
There was something so
a level
cool. Go ahead.
14 bounty hunter when I was level 3 because I have the wanted trait, and it could be any level. And I was like, well, I have to pay you 2,000
Yeah,
credits, dude.
right.
And I love that.
I
you
have
know,
had
but-
some amazing interactions in space with ships. That's all. There has been some hilarious stuff where I'm like, what is going on?
So I agree. Like, yeah, the fucking just being too reliant on fast travel is a
You know what I
It
would
hurts.
like?
It hurts it for sure.
Because I agree with you guys that it kind of hurts the experience a bit. And you could say that people could choose to not fast travel, but that's not really how people work.
Absolutely right.
Right? In a way, if you have the ability to do so, even you, Karak, sounds like you found yourself, still doing the fast travel.
Yep.
And the game system doesn't really allow for that much because you can't really travel that fast between planets, right?
Right. It's kind of taking into account that you will do it. What I would like is two things. One, something instead of a menu where I fast travel through a menu, if it was something more like in the game itself, like, No Man's Sky, you have the teleporters. So you have at least a fiction of, oh, okay, I built a base. I have a teleporter in this base. I can now go to my other bases. Cool. I can kind of get, behind that, because then it means I need to actually create a little base in a planet to be able to fast travel to it. There's a bit of investment there.
Yeah.
And also you could have limitations of maybe you can't have a certain equip load on you if you're going to, fast travel. So maybe you need to leave some of your stuff behind. That type of stuff, I think, could be a good adjustment.
And I mentioned this in the Discord. Here's what I think they should have done with the boundaries on the open world part. They should have had some system in place that you had to be tethered to your ship at a certain distance, and that there was a requirement to go back. An in-game fiction would have been much easier to accept than you're at the end of a boundary.
Yeah,
if they had
100%.
lied to me, I would have been fine. I would have known what was going on, and I would have brought it up. But the idea that you've got O2 and CO2 balancing each other, you've got all these equipment bits, they could have thought and said, oh, you know what? Let's make it so that when you land on a ship, as you go farther out, there's a signal degradation of some kind. There's something that happens that's like, you can't go any farther. What if, by the way, you could simply say, move my ship closer to me? And when it does that, it does a quick load and puts the ship now closer to you, and now you can continue to travel. I would have also been okay with that, but they didn't do those, and that's a missed opportunity.
I completely agree, but if I didn't have the internet and I didn't see that was a thing, I would have never knew that.
Yeah, like I said, I almost did 40 hours and didn't naturally hit one.
I would have,
No, they're pretty big. I mean, people think a beeline a certain time isn't big, but the way Bethesda puts stuff down, it is big. And the reason why you're out there,
you can go from one side of Skyrim to the next in that time.
That's like, another thing that I don't think people realized is that some open world games are less time than a single tile in Starfield.
Right.
So, is the whole game played in a spacesuit? No, it is not. Many times you're out, there's cities. Sounds like Absy's only got to one of 3 major ones, and then there's about 9 to 15 minor ones, and then about another 2,000, other things. It's nuts. Intel 9.6, I'll be muting anything related to this game. Scap says, question for podcast. Starfield's animation graphics seem to have a strong resemblance to Fallout. Do you think Bethesda should have gone with a different engine? No, I like it, but I get where you're coming from. I like that it felt like...
I felt at home.
Star Out, Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like a little bit like Fallout, a little bit like Skyrim, Starrim. There was something about it that it feels comfortable, and it feels like I sort of know where they're coming from and what might or might not be available. And then when you break those things and something else is there, that's the excitement of going, oh, it's not like Fallout.
Nostalgia a lot.
Yeah, and it hits nostalgia a lot. Yeah. The base building is Fallout, though. Straight up.
Yeah, but you can zoom out though this time. You can do it like The Sims, right? You can
but I just mean the system in place is like when you start doing it, you're all this is Fallout. That's Fallout, man. I mean, which is great if that's what you like. I admit I didn't love the base building. It requires you to carry the items. There's a couple other things that are difficult, and it's a little less. I think they're trying to put limitations on it, which again, if they did that there, why didn't they do it in those other things that we're giving examples for?
Because you can sell right out of your cargo with any vendor. So
true that. Right. Yeah. Stripe says no spoilers. Look forward to the podcast. Yeah. We try not to spoiler anything. I will say with Starfield, it's hard to spoiler Starfield. The honest truth is, unless I talked more about the end or talked about, it's not that kind of game. It's, I mean, you could spoil.
Very emergent, like personal journeys.
Yeah. Does anyone else have an issue on PC where it lags like crazy when you go in and out of menus? No, but I do have that soft.
I didn't get that
thing. I didn't. Yeah, I haven't had any of those. Dear ACG, you once mentioned Zen games, relaxation, exploring. Skyrim really pulled that off when you find a gorgeous view. Does Starfield achieve the same? Yes. It does have more loading screens because it's a bigger location. But I would say without any hesitation, I have felt that Starfield does better. Like, just does better. It just works.
About
I just said it. It just works.
There's something cool about seeing the rotation of a planet or seeing where the planet is in relation to the star, and then landing on a spot where you can watch the sunset or something, and actually seeing that is pretty fucking cool. Honestly,
it's so legit in that way. And for people coming in late, if you think we're just positive, we're not. We covered a bunch of negative.
We definitely said stuff we didn't like. Yeah,
there's definitely stuff with it. Finishing up these, what do you think about Activision adding real-time voice chat moderation to Call of Duty? So, I don't know if you guys saw this. They're going to use AI to listen to voice chat and then say, okay, there's a problem here. He says, couldn't these resources be better spent elsewhere? No, because those resources aren't really intensive. It's just going to use a text-to-speech and then track those words. That's not really resource intensive. However, man, I don't know. Like, I guess I don't get it as much as other people. I hear this complaint all the time, though, about it being really rough for multiplayer games. And I don't know why, but it just has not. Maybe it's because I'm not a girl, which I think is much more difficult. When they hear a voice, I've seen it in our own Discord, so I'm not like speaking out of turn here. I have seen people get unique.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not even the voice, man. Like sometimes just a name.
Oh,
if they
dude,
can tell it's a female name, because I have a
profile picture.
Well, no, not that
people's
far.
text Johnny will change. Hey, what are you playing? And you're like, you never ask. You never ask what people are playing. You never ask what people. I know what you ask. You've never asked that. Like, you know what they're doing. They're like, how you doing? You can feel.
Yeah,
Joey
but you can also have
them.
the opposite, where they are, what's the word? Misogynistic. Yeah. It's just because they saw, the person has a female name.
Yeah. Well, we've had that issue in we're paid for Discord, so it's less, which is very helpful. But even I've noticed if I cuss a lot in chat, people will use the words in a personal way versus the general. So if I say, I fucking hate this, that's one thing. But if you say, I went and blanked this character in Baldur's Gate, there's a whole different connotation to using that word like in those ways. And so if somebody's, you know what I mean? So if somebody's in voice chat for Call of Duty and somebody say, we're going to screw over this team, that's one thing. But if they're like, hey man, I'm going to, screw you, then you're like, dude, seriously, I don't know if I want to hear it. I just don't know that many people who've had issues personally, but I hear about it all the time. I do hear it's obviously it's rough for some people. I also don't know if voice chat is a place where you need to drop that stuff. So I don't need to. I don't know about you guys. I don't think in all the voice chat I've ever played, I've ever once been like a troll in that way. Like in that really like weird, toxic way. It's be like, hey man, I schooled you or whatever, but I don't know. Just not for me. I guess it's just because it's a game, right? We talked about that earlier. It's just a game review. It's just a game chat. Like, you need to prove yourself in a game chat, man.
You
You have
should
other
tell that
things.
to the League of Legends community. They
Yeah.
could do with some of that
Could they do
perspective.
with some of that perspective? Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't know that. So, what's the best random encounter you've experienced so far? It's in the game. Fumo asks. I think we've hit that overall. Lance says, "What's your biggest issue with gameplay that is immersion breaking?" Too easy fast
With
travel.
Starfield or
Yeah,
in
with Starfield.
general?
In general, in Starfield,
Too
that was
easy fast
immersion
travel
breaking.
for me.
Too easy fast travel is a big one. What was immersion breaking for me? There was something, but I forgot.
I would say too easy. I mean, you mentioned too easy fast travel. The inventory is
one.
weird. Switch into the inventory where it shows her and not me.
It's so strange to me that you can't press a button to like engage. You know, like the thing.
Because you can plot a course, right?
Yeah,
you can plot
exactly.
a course without fast traveling.
There we go. That's a good one. Yeah, where you're
What's the
just
point?
like, dude, what's going? Like, you missed a step here, and you
It
added
feels like they forgot
steps
to
over
add
here.
a system there or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it.
Or
Yeah.
so they make one thing so easy, and they make another thing doubly hard, and you're all, that could have probably.
I wonder if in development they were like, oh well, everybody's gonna fast travel anyway, so we might as well not include that.
I mean,
Maybe.
for the general audience, the bigger the game got, I bet you the less Starfield they put in. That's the honest truth. You know what I mean? Like the less punky it got, because it's like, whoa, a bunch of people want to play this. Go ahead. Sorry, Johnny.
I was just gonna say it was so funny because coming from Elite, I actually was lost for 5 or 10 minutes trying to figure this out because I plotted the course, and in my brain, coming from Elite, I'm like, okay, I plotted the course. Now I'm gonna engage and go there, and I couldn't find a way. I looked at the commands. There's no engage, and then I saw, I have to go back to the menu, and in there I click a button to travel. Okay, well.
And with mouse and keyboard, the great thing that like Abzy had was with mouse and keyboard, you can hit one button for inventory. With the gamepad, you have to hit at minimum one.
It's two, right? So you go to the main screen
I mean
then...
inputs. So it's one to get in, then you have to direction pad, then you have to press a button. So it's 3 inputs compared to one. And I would difference. And the favorite system I love. You can favorite like 25 weapons. It's not 25, but you can favorite so many weapons on a gamepad. Why not remove the upper on the digital pad and have that go to inventory? Like we're doing inventory enough. They know it. I know it. You know it. How many times have you been overburdened and you need to jettison some shit off your character? You just, it's like, have me press up and just let me, or down stick. I think one of the down sticks doesn't do anything when you're walking normally. You have to go into the scan to do it. So I would love for down stick when you're just walking around to do something. And I think
in general, this has always been an issue with Bethesda games, their inventory management.
Yes.
I've never felt like...
Yeah, dude.
It was always cumbersome, wasn't it?
Sky UI was made purely,
because
they couldn't do Skyrim's inventory.
Star UI coming in.
Dude, their inventories are like...
Yeah, but it's crazy because I love the minimal interface of when you're in the game, when you're looting stuff, when you're looking around. I love all that. I love what they did with like the line and showing you the speaker name or the thing you're looking at and the survey UI. I love the UI in the game, but the UI and the inventory and all that, and just that is where they missed a little bit.
Last one, Al Bundy says, is this type of simulation acceptable in 2023? And he shows NPCs bouncing into each other in Starfield. And I would say no, just like Cyberpunk, those kind of things. Overall, I'm fine with the general movement in cities and stuff. But if you crank up the population, there's a lot of people in a Starfield city. It's ridiculous. Like I think they must have listened to me bitching about 12 people running the economy in a Skyrim world, because they're like, okay, bitch, we're going to put 200 people
Here's
in.
an economy.
Here's an economy for you. And then you see the troll, nasty, single line DNA citizens in that game. You have 3 levels of graphics in this game, man. You got your main party. And
level.
The main party's like, ta-da, they're the beautiful ball, the belly at the princess, or the belly at the ball. And then you get the general salesman guys. Baby. They're pretty okay. And then you see like a citizen, and you're like, oh my God, these guys are ugly.
Dude, it's like Lost, where you have the core protagonists.
Yeah,
that are good-looking people, and then you have like the fucking random NPCs.
The guy who's bringing water, and they're like, "Did Joel die?" And they're all, "Who was Joel? Joel's the citizen here." And these citizens show up, and they've got no shading. Their eyeballs sometimes are like I've had a couple characters where it's obvious that they're tracking where they're walking, which is a cool bit of immersion where the character looks sort of where they're walking or looks along the line. But man, their sits are nasty, man, nasty. They are such a level down from everybody else that you're just like. Now you don't talk to them, which is great. You don't really interact with them too much, but you don't want to because they're some nasty dudes. All right, so I'm going to go read these super chats.
I did get something cool. Sorry, I did get something cool where I got happy about that. Where I was wearing my helmet in the city, and a random NPC was like, "Why the fuck are you wearing a helmet in the city? You can breathe here, dude."
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
It's just like a random NPC. Yeah.
First super chat. Thank you again. Super chats do help the channel. Things get demonetized. We don't do sponsors. I buy the games, give them away. So I do appreciate all these. We have a tendency to read them when they come up, but sometimes that'll break conversation, so I like to not do so. R Green, $5 super chat. With less and less time to play games, just wondering if you guys had a few single-player games to play before you die. Games that you loved or that blew you away. So he means, even if you played them already, sort of like the game list, some of the single-player game list. For me, KOTOR, number 1, is the highest on. Jade Empire is number 2. Do you guys have any like Witcher 3, I'm assuming? Would Witcher 3 be on there?
I have Disco Elysium, Nier Replicant and Nier Automata, 13 Sentinels, and I think those are my 3 games that I would play before I die.
Like ride or die games,
those stories again. Just those stories they meant a lot and they really hit hard. So
Yeah,
those are good ones. What about you, Johnny? Any?
Probably Final Fantasy VII, just because I love the music, and that would be.
Do you mean remake?
A good one.
I'm sorry. You mean remake?
I would, yeah. I would always go remake at this point.
Yeah, that's a good way you say that at this point. Like,
yeah, for me, that's now become the better version. I know some people are gonna come for me for that, but that is actually. I mean, the music is incredible. Reorchestrations are amazing. I love how they've expanded on the side characters and stuff. So for me, it's just a better version for me.
Hush Al Ghul asks a good question, $5. In Starfield, does the requirements of XP increase with each level? Example, you need the same amount of XP to get from level 10 to 11 as 50 to 51. Man, that is a
interesting.
Good...
I don't think so, but I haven't not tested it.
And I went up levels quite. The game is what would the term be? Generous, I guess.
A lot of stuff gives you XP. Surveying.
What is the cap?
Picking.
Is that spoiler?
I don't know what the cap is because I'm 50 or something, 40 or 50. I don't know what the cap is, and that's with another character that's like level 14 that I didn't do an N+ game. One's N+, one's not. I don't know, man. That's a good question. I'm sorry, I don't know that. I probably should know that, but it didn't cause any issues, and so I think my brain just didn't track it, because normally I would cover something about that in the experience curve, but I never had issues going up levels in this game.
Did you, I don't remember if you mentioned this in your review, did you enjoy the process of leveling up, picking a skill, going through those menus, seeing the upgrades you get?
Yeah, yes and no. I didn't like that some of the skills just don't let you do anything till you buy them. I believe lockpicking's one of them. I could be wrong on that.
Wait, no, lockpicking you can do novice.
Can you do novice? Okay, but there are some that you can't do.
Like stealth, dude. You can't even see.
There's not even a stealth bar if you don't do stealth.
If you don't have stealth, I like that though. But like, I completely understand why people would not like that. Yeah,
I just don't think it was as seamless as they could have done. And then you have to go. So it does this thing, and I bitched about another game, so I'm going to bitch about this one, where the generic descriptions in Armored Core I didn't like for weapons, the same thing happens for the skills until you go into the skill. So you see all these skills, and it's like, astronomy. You can do more astronomy stuff. And you're like, I would like to have a tiny bit more data before I had to click another button to go into that skill and see each one. And then you get one, I think, for free. And then each one, it's 2, 3, 4, all require skill challenges. Now, whether you like skill challenges or not, one thing that skill challenges do is they make you interact with that continually and it sort of trains you. Do I want to continue to interact with it to level it up, or do I not? And I sort of do like that, where like it'll say you need to scan 5 planets. And you're like, all right, well, how hard is that? And then you do it, and you're like, do I care? Maybe. And then if I do, the next one might be 20 planets. And you're like, all right, that's a pretty good bonus when I unlock, I'll be able to build an outpost on a hazardous planet. So I don't know about, what did you think? Well, Jonny, you haven't played it enough probably, but Abzy,
No.
so you were like,
the skills,
and how you
the
buy
skill system
them and the
works?
levels and just everything as a whole.
I think it makes sense. Yeah, I'm not minding it so far.
Okay.
I like the choice of what you can do I like that there are skills that are related to combat. I like that there are skills. There's a lot of systems in the game that you can kind of personalize your game around what you like to do in games. So if you like resource management and crew management, you can lean more into that. If you want to be more combat centric,
That's
if you
true.
want to just persuade people, right? So I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is sort of what I was saying was to go up in the skill, you have to interact with it, which can then teach you, do I want to interact with it?
Do I like it? Yeah.
Do I like it? Yeah.
Am I vibing with the skill to rank it up more? Yeah. I like that.
And they're not powerful skills, I will say that. So that is one thing. When you up something, it'll be like, you have a 10-meter longer binocular. And you're like, all right. And then once you buy it 2 or 3 times, you're like, wow, that is worth buying.
The survey, like,
yeah.
When 20 meters to scan.
Yeah.
Dude, huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Up.
It doesn't sound huge. You're like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, I think. And by the time I got to 30 or 40, I was like, oh my God, scanning a planet's 10 times easier. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, that's ridiculous. But what
And
are they
can
doing?
you
Putting a
respec?
different magnifier on the binoculars? Like,
Yeah,
it's sort
sure.
of dumb. Go ahead, Jonny.
No, I was just gonna ask if you can respec or change your skills at some point.
There are ways to change I didn't run into a guy that changed skills, but there are multiple places to change your look, and they might have had a skill one, but I am not a respecker ever.
Yeah,
in games. I will.
Gotcha.
I didn't see it, so I can say I don't know if it's there
Just
because
own
I
it.
never saw it, but I own it. Yeah, and this game does make you own it because you have to interact. So it's like,
Yeah.
if I was gonna respec, that's on me because that means I probably scanned 50 planets to get this skill. It's like at some point, aren't I the idiot? Like I should have probably just been like, why am I buying this? Like,
I'm glad you could change your look though, because a couple hours in the game, I realized I basically made Jonny but with hair. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm playing Jonny now the whole time, and I'm not that connected because I'm just playing Jonny, who's my other
That's
podcast.
awesome.
What would
host.
Johnny do? What would Johnny
Johnny
do?
do?
Yeah, that's
What would Johnny do?
But I'm a cyber runner, so I guess a little bit. That's a little bit in.
what I also
character.
liked was one of the guys in the Discord created a character and he posted it, and I'm like, dude, you legitimately created one of the NPC's main quest givers.
Oh shit!
I told him, I'm like, that is the quest giver that you get later in the game. You created them. What I like is if you choose the parents' background, your parents look like you. Like they look like their
cool.
genes have caused you, which I thought was pretty cool.
Dude, that parents thing really made me smile, man.
Yeah, like I said, I evicted those bitches, man. I evicted them.
Yeah, you can just disown.
You can just disown them. I was
Oh my
hanging with my
God.
parents. They were showing up at my place
shit.
of work, and I was like,
They
listen,
showed up at my work,
Yeah.
dude. I was like, what the fuck are you
Mom, Pop,
doing?
get the fuck out. And then I
Yeah,
went home one day, and they're like, you can this is not spoilers. These are just steps you can take. And the option to evict them was there, and I was like, I need that $2,000 a month or whatever. So you guys are gone. And then I went and got high. So love the games. Working on the road. The podcast is the highlight of my Friday. Thank you very much. $5 super chat. $1 or $2 super chat. Gamer tag VR. Hey ACG are my inspiration for reviews. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully you jump into it and do it. It's a hard road, but it's worth it. Robot Bison, $5. Have you guys discussed Violation closing? No, but we will. In fact, let's jump to that for a second, man. I didn't like Saints Row.
Go woke, go broke. I'm sorry, no, that's just a joke. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
It sucks balls that they closed. By the way,
Yeah.
Mimi closed too, who did Shadow Gambit. They just released Shadow Gambit, which is one of the best stealth turn-based tactic games I've played in years. And they
And
closed
any company
too.
that just have people that they hired and closing down is just not. It's a sad thing.
It sucked,
People lose
man.
their jobs.
It sucked. Because here's the thing about Saints Row, too, guys. Their DLC, it's still neutered of emotion. The idea, though,
Pumpkin
for their
spice latte.
DLC is friggin' awesome. And I was looking at this game going, if they had just added or left some edge there, Saints Row could have been really good. And I would love to have seen them say, we're not doing Saints Row, we're doing, yeah, like they said, Agents of Mayhem was rough. Maybe do Agents of Mayhem 2, but like Mayhem should have mayhem. That game had no mayhem. Like, it was ridiculous. It was the worst named game. It just, and Saints Row has this guttural feel to it. It was always that way, and they
spraying shit on people. They removed all of the
dildo
edge.
Vats, and they're like,
dildo vats.
We're being adult, blah blah blah. And it's like, dude, my friends who are adults are super gross. You know, I have some friends who are really preppy and some friends who are not, and it's like, it's okay to make a game for an adult who likes dildo bats. There's nothing wrong with that, and people are starting to crumble under like these weird pressures, and they go out of business. And guys, that is a huge hit, because Saints Row may have had its issues, but the core fundamental stuff was still there. It's just that it was so watered down.
So what is the studio that closed? Sorry,
Violation closed. Volition. I call them Violation. I'm sorry. Volition closed. And then so did Mimi or Mimi Games. Both of those guys. They did Shadow Tactics, Desperados 3.
Oh, dude, those two games.
They made Desperados 3.
Desperados
that's
3
one of the best games
I
in
love
the genre
Commandos
ever.
Like games.
I know.
love Commandos
and
like
they
games.
know how to make them. And so the idea that they're gone, like if I was, I mean, I'm just saying, Desperados sort of overlaps to me and my brain with Microsoft. I don't know why. There's a feeling or a thought process. I would love for Microsoft to have stepped in and been like, no, if you guys want to do a Shadow Tactics or whatever 2, or, you know, if you guys want to do this stuff, we're going to, because Shadow Tactics, I liked the first one. The standalone DLC was excellent. And then Shadow Gambit, I don't know how they did it, but Pirate Ninjas turned out to be fantastic.
Shadow Gambit was by them as well?
Yep.
So they were the only ones doing Commandos.
They're the only ones doing, yeah. Weird West, but Weird West isn't turn-based. You know,
it's not, Weird West isn't the same. But there's a Stargate SG-1 that's supposed to come out at some point. That's Commandos like.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Another super chat. Face23 BKNY $20 super chat. The way Rockstar made a legitimate Western game, is Starfield the best space game to date?
I think.
Continue. I'm listening. I'm gonna let my dogs out.
Yeah, because. Here's the thing with these games. There's a lot of space games, right? And I feel like you gotta take into account the scope of devs and the scope of a game in today's standards. And you're always gonna have a push and pull, and you're always gonna have compromise. And you know, I feel like a lot of people focus on what something is not. So I feel like they all provide different things. Okay. For example, Bethesda might not provide you with the seamless travel and the seamless exploration in the universe and stuff like that, but you can be like, what does it provide me that No Man's Sky and, you know, Star Citizen and stuff doesn't, which is like the quests. It's basically an RPG in space. But if you're looking for a straight off space sim, you can maybe look to, you know, other stuff like Elite Dangerous, which does provide you with all this other stuff, but doesn't provide you with the stuff that Bethesda is providing. I think there's always going to be pros and cons from, you know, what you look for, what you want out of your space game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement with that like space games they're just bigger and grander in scope. Fallout
that you can't
just
fit
a
everything
small land
together.
And Starfield's like multiple huge, bigger than Skyrim. They're just different things. I don't know if I would say it was the best. I would say No Man's Sky Day 1 was not as good as this. No Man's Sky now is a more seamless thing, but man, their planet exploration is nothing as good as.
They have their own positives that, you know, the Bethesda game might not.
Elite,
you know what I mean?
X4. I love X4. I love the X games. You're like a Monopoly, you know, character trying to figure out how to like get the most money out of 2 planets, trading. You're doing space jacking and all this kind of crazy stuff. And then Starfield's a totally different, it's a totally different ballgame.
Like someone might say, hey, why doesn't Starfield provide this seamless exploration when No Man's Sky does? But then you can be like, oh, why doesn't No Man's Sky provide me with the quests and cities that Starfield does? You know what I mean? There's always like a, you know, compromise.
Starfield's missing some, or I mean, sorry, No Man's Sky is missing some, I mean, they're missing some huge things. And one of them is that their exploration bases and stuff just are not enticing. They're just not. And their combat is still pretty terrible on ground. I would say Starfield's combat is 10 times better than No Man's Sky's combat. Like that, it's not even, at least to me, not even in the same like thought process.
Yeah, and this whole experience of entering an outpost and looking for useful loot.
Oh, in Everspace, amazing.
Examining.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And what's interesting too is that all those games, even though they have some, lots of overlap or common things that they all do, ship combat, all this stuff, the moment to moment in all of them is so different. If you compare what you're doing over an hour in No Man's Sky with, Starfield or Everspace 2 as well, it's just entirely different. It is a different beast altogether.
Providing
you just have to find. Yeah, exactly. You just have to find what you want. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, Jonny, you've done a lot of Elite. I've done a lot of Elite. Like Elite has a totally different feel than No Man's Sky. It's
sure, 100%.
Certainly more scientific and all that. It's more
manual.
A lot
of manual stuff.
And then you got like Everspace, which is well into the arcade area.
Yeah.
But neither one of those handle trade in any way, shape, or form like the X Games. The X Games are beyond. And by the way, the X Games, when you crank the graphics up in an X game, those things look phenomenal, but they don't do land well at all. There's a couple bases you can go to. It looks like shit. It doesn't control well. All these problems.
That's right.
Star Citizen has tried to do that. Elite put some ground locations in that just didn't work. So they all offer some weird thing. And I will say this, man, when you take out somebody's engines in Starfield and then you dock with them and you have a battle to take over their ship, those moments are what I wanted from Star Citizen, which isn't going to come out for another 15 fucking years.
Well, Star Citizen is supposedly it's supposed to encompass all of those in one game, right?
In the time
and then you see how that's going along.
By the
right?
way,
It's never coming out.
Starfield's original discussion was around the same time Star Citizen was first announced. And now it's out completely. And it's got some issues here and there, but it's still offering, like you said, 80% of what Star Citizen is trying to offer. So it's a weird, and by the way, not going to spoil anything. In 150 hours, I had not experienced what I experienced last night. At about 3 o'clock in the morning, I had a engagement I've not heard a single reviewer talk about. And
it's like Skyrim, man, like playing and I was like, thousands of hours in Skyrim and just experiencing.
And by the way, this was not a small thing. It happened, and I was like, what? What's happening right now? And it just kept going, and it just got bigger and bigger. And I was like, how in the hell am I technically an N+2 almost? And this is the first time we're seeing this. And by the way, it wasn't connected to N+. It was just quite simply probably an experience that it's random, so it may not have popped up. M Hunter 1438 does a super chat of $10, but it says message redacted, so I don't know if he was bitching. Was it bad words?
No, he redid it again.
Oh, did he? Okay, I'll see that in a second. Sorry about that if that was, something. Loved ACG's review on Starfield, had me at the beginning. Oh, yeah. Yeah, the review for Starfield was fun to do, I will admit.
Yeah, you fucking baited. You baited.
I did.
You're a master baiter. Yeah.
I'm a master baiter, especially in that one where I was like, I'm just leaving these in. Like I said, I informed some people prior. I was like, listen, if a dev sees this and they're all, oh my God, Karak had a terrible time. I'm like, just make sure they sit through the first 15 seconds because it's really just poking fun at the entire environment. And the fact that we didn't have a lot of those, which is great. A lot of people in here discussing the terrible things that indicate when devs shut down. Yeah, man, it's going to suck. Embracer just bought a ton of stuff and then closed them super quick. Yeah, Embracer's bad mistake is something that Reg and I talked about at least 2 years ago, which is that Embracer's owner is an investor himself. Mm-hmm. People do not realize there is a huge difference. He's an investor. He buys to sell and buys to grow. He is not like a CEO who answers to investors. That's a different thing. Mm-hmm. There's a layer of obfuscation there. Yeah. And dude, when this canceled 2.8 billion or something like that, when we found out later it was the Saudi gaming group that pulled out, and Embracer said, hey, we're going to have to shut these down. I got to admit, that was the first time I've seen Lars make a mistake. Because I think if you track Lars Winnefort, he's the guy who owns Embracer. He has been notoriously intelligent. in how he does things. But the problem with an investor is they're not always right. And when they're wrong, and it's public people you've got employed with you, they suffer. He loses money. His worth is down, but he's still employed. And unfortunately, we see companies shut down. And I've heard that that is not the last company that's shutting down. And that sucks balls. Dude, they should.
Because we see a pattern, too, of execution. Like,
yes. Yeah. Oh, that's true, too. Because remember, this is Lars. He made it clear. His version of AA and AAA is not AA and AAA that the industry thinks. It's not the cash amounts, and it's not the delivery. It's B tier. By the way, Darksiders Genesis they made, fantastic title. But it's a middle ground $40 title. And it takes Darksiders and does something different. But it worked great. But they're not making gangbusters money. Now, they did do Dying Light. I believe they're involved with Dying Light 2. Aren't they? Not Dying Light, I'm sorry, Dead Island. I believe Dead Island 2 is theirs. And Dead Island 2 has, from what I understand, outsold all expectations. And their new DLC comes out soon, which I hear is awesome. It adds whole new factions and all kinds of stuff. But
cool.
Man, that sucks. Man, that sucks because they're two companies I love. Like, yeah. Dude, it's one of those things, man. When you get a company and they're all gathered together, it's like one failure in this day and age, man. And
is it optimistic to think that, you know, these people will go on to form some new amazing, you know, like the metaphor when you break some eggs and you make an omelet?
If your resume didn't say Saints Row remake, maybe.
Yeah, that's a rough one, but it's
When you go to try to invest money and they say what was your what was your last game, and you say
leaves you a bit lukewarm, right?
But
like,
if you say our last game was a critically acclaimed, very high rated Shadow Gambit, Desperados 4, you might have a chance. And they said it was mental. I don't know if you guys saw their quitting tag, the Cyberpunk, you know, big blurb, we're leaving gaming. Yellow on black, we apologize, we'll do better. They stated that it was mental, that constantly churning out games that weren't seeing a return was causing them angst. And I think, you know, some of these guys are like, I could just work for a bigger company and let them handle all the finances and not worry. And some of these guys,
maybe work less or crunch less.
Yeah, or crunch only in the 3 months, you know, prior to a game release at one, you know, versus maybe all the time.
Not the entire year.
Yeah, dude, I don't think people realize, like, Desperados 3. I mean, that I would go so far as to say that's like a classic game. That game is ridiculously good. So to see them go away sucks. Let's see. I never finished Fallout 4's main story, but I fully intend on cloud gaming this one to the end and beyond. Yeah, cloud gaming's awesome. It's gonna be great to see that. Also, again, thanks to everybody. Oh, if you're watching and you don't get alerts, unsubscribe from the channel, resubscribe, and hit notify all. That's a thing that happened with YouTube, and I know some people have been telling me that they're not getting alerts. You know, I can't fix that, but that change should possibly help you out a little bit. Looking at Twitter, some of the other stuff being discussed. So we have Spider-Man 2, right? We've got Starfield's release. We got Spider-Man 2. We've got Alan Wake. And we've got Alone in the Dark.
Alan Wake.
I am too, but I'm going to tell you right now, dude, Alan Wake don't sell no copies, man. It just doesn't sell.
It looks so good. It sounds so good. I want to play it. Yeah, it's just and it has, dude. Once I saw the one of the gameplay, and they did the thing where I love when any director does that in a movie or in a game, and you get those big bold like letters or of a title screen or like a location good, with that boom, and it shows up in the middle of the screen.
You mean like a walkout moment where
it gives me goosebumps, man. It's like in Control when you go to a new location, it's like level 3 basement or whatever, and it's like
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
My favorite in those games though was when they'd be like last time on Alan Wake, and it felt like watching Lost. It felt like watching From, the TV show From.
Just binging.
Yeah, you're just like last time, and I'm like, bitch, I was here 5 minutes ago. I am the last time. That's what I loved. Is I was like, you're binging a fake episodic game, and it worked so well. It was so sexy to hear him talk and be like, but admittedly, as Jonny said, then you see him in full motion and you're like, who the fuck is this dude?
Yeah,
and you
who's that guy?
realize
What?
technology has traveled.
Oh, it's meant to be
far
the same
past.
person.
Yeah, it is the same person. Yeah, but yeah, you see that and you're like, $10 super chat. Nathaniel says some reviewers complain about the slow burn in introductory hours. I'm a fan. Learning the new mechanics brings me back to starting Morrowind. I agree.
Yeah,
I just think it's a bad
disliked.
starting.
Yeah, people dislike a lot of slow. People you disliked Red Dead 2's intro. I loved it. You know, I really like slow burn. So
I did dislike that.
yeah, there's a lot of people. You know, with slow burn games, a lot of people. Some people didn't like Red Dead Redemption 2 in general because it was such a slow game. So you'll definitely get that opinion for sure.
I think when you look at slow game startings, there's a difference though. So Red Dead was a lot of walking in the snow, and I think I just felt stymied. And it didn't teach me much. It was more about the story, blah, blah, blah. But with Starfield, it doesn't feel like Star or Fields. It feels like I'm underground mining.
For me, I was like, oh my God, look at the graphics.
I know. But I was
are
just
these
like,
Bethesda faces? Why are they so animated?
Why does everybody look so good until you see the citizens? And then you're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, well, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, we don't talk about this. We'll never talk about the citizens again. Yeah, I don't know, man. Slow game starts are rough depending on how they work. This one is not like a brain killer. It's just that it just doesn't feel like it fits. That's all.
Yeah, and it's fast. You get out of there quickly.
Hush says, since saving has become bro, do you even lift? Question. If you can only use autosave, is it like he skips leg day? I guess so. Like that's what I said in the thing is it has become the bro. Dude. It has become the bro thing. How many times did you save? You know, it's just it's so stupid. Yeah. It's so it's such...
How much creatine did you have? Oh, that reminds me, I need to make my drink.
How much creatine did you have? Have you taken your Red Bull? Jonny, are you a save scummer? Are you a dirty, rotten save scummer?
How dare you?
Certainly save. What I don't like and what I use the saves for is so that I don't have to redo content. So if I went through a difficult battle, I want to reload before the battle. I don't want to walk all my way there again, talk to the 5 people that I talked to again. That's what I avoid with saves. And the side of bugs, you know, sometimes you have to reload for bugs. But I will never reload to recast the dice or, you know, if I fail a pickpocket or something like that, I like kind of,
Agreed.
And also narrative choices. I've had a couple times where, oh crap, that choice really spiraled out of control. But, you know, I kind of, what you said, I just owned it because I think that for me, that's part of the fun.
Dude, that's like, and in real life, I don't know how to describe this. I lack the terminology because it's been years, but I remember when we were first learning martial arts, especially when you're sparring, you can overthink things. And so especially what you'll get is white belts hurting people, blue belts hurting people that are black belts. And one of the things that pops up is it's because they'll learn a move. They don't know when to use it. Right. So they'll do something at the wrong time, especially when you're sparring. There's some things you just don't do. It's like, you don't do this, you don't do that. And there's this thought process, especially when you go in to where you're like, okay, I'm turning my brain off and I'm making a decision as it pops up. And that's how I play games. I'm like, okay, decision pops up, kill my parents, don't kill them in a game. I usually don't sit and think. If it's a slower thought process, do you want to continue on this? Sometimes I'll think about it. But if something pops up and it requires instant action, I'm a person who's like, it's instant and I will pay every penalty.
So that's almost like a Rorschach test. Is that how you say that? Do you know those tests where they show you a picture and you have to say the first thing that comes to your mind without thinking?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's that instant thing where it pops up and you just look at it and you're like,
you have a gut reaction. Like, this is the choice, isn't it? Yeah.
And we do it in D&D. When I play D&D or board games, I'm usually the person who's like going for it. And maybe somebody will say, if it's a co-op game, they might come in with an idea and I'll certainly take it. But a lot of times, Dungeons & Dragons, board games, whatever, I'm just like, I'm doing this. And I feel like there's something afterwards to where I can say, it made sense in that lickety-split moment, and I don't want this unrealistic, like where you're sitting there for an hour, because it doesn't. Then the game, then the game doesn't feel real anymore. You're like, well, I can just sit and think about this for 8 hours. So I like to take those instant actions.
But I think that's also a part of, because you played a lot of D&D, you DM'd and stuff. So I think you're very good at having a clear identity for like your character.
Yeah,
and
what I'm
stuff
trying
like
to
that.
do or something.
I feel like
that.
a lot of people, their issue is they don't have a clear idea of what their character would do, because either they're not playing as themselves, or they're trying to do something different, and they're unsure what would be the response of that character.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I think there's no real right or wrong way to play. It's just I feel more invested when that choice is made.
Yeah.
And it's like a hard choice. You're like, oh, this change. It's gonna take me longer.
And I love the fiction of making a bad choice, because for me, like, that's life, dude. Like, I look back and there were choices I've made were bad choices, right? And that's part of the interesting thing. It's like, how do you get out? How do you make the best out of a bad situation? Right. And a lot of fun moments come from bad decisions you make too.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you. A lot of times when I'm saving, it's because I'm worried about a bug. It's because I don't want to walk 2 miles to a battle.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, okay.
Or if I just had a lot of conversations, it's like, guys, I don't want to.
You're sort of putting your bookmarker in your closed book. Yes. But you're still reading. But you're like, okay, I got this far. These are the choices I made, almost like a choose your own adventure. It's like, this is where I am. And then I'm still playing. Exactly. But it's like, I know that when I go back, I won't go back farther than these 55 dialogue choices I just made in a long conversation. And then I'll eat it. And that's fine. I think with save scumming, it's become the bro conversation. It's just stupid, man. I don't know. People take it way too serious. It's such a weird thing. And it'll be a single player game too. Where somebody's like, dude, is this person single player save scum? And you're like, why would in the world would that matter? I mean, it's not connected. It's not like a multiplayer. It's not like a whatever.
Talk about perspective, like you were saying, in the grand scheme of things. How many times you saved in a video game?
Yeah. Talk about things that just don't
I'm
matter.
at 1,523, actually. Thank you very much. I'll fucking posture check me, bitch.
Oh, that does happen, though, where I'll save so many times, the game will be like, you have too many saves.
Dude, I had... So today I was cleaning up my C drive, and 16 gigabytes were just Baldur's Gate 3 saves.
Yeah.
And I deleted like so many of them.
Yeah. It's always best to go in there and clean up your C drive, especially when you throw, a bunch of games in, they get in your documents, and suddenly, you're trying to play a game and you're like, why is this game doing this or that? It's like, maybe you should check your C drive to make sure it's not, absolutely packed with stuff.
Yeah.
Moving on from there, talking about some of the big things that are happening the rest of this year, I do want to talk about Spider-Man for a second. I feel like there's a general lack of discussion or excitement or anything about Spider-Man 2, which I find so weird. I think because
we just had two really big games come out, so...
But I felt even prior to Starfield. I felt even prior to Baldur's Gate. I don't know.
Well, it's like God of War, right? It's just more of the same, but it's going to be great, and I don't think anyone has any contention.
Oh, true. You mean maybe people are just... It's a sequel of a good game.
They know
blah,
what to
blah, blah.
expect. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna have fucking Venom powers and shit, dude. And it's gonna be Spider-Man, and you're gonna go around and the gameplay. Yeah. They nailed the gameplay of Spider-Man.
It's almost like, because we know it's good. So like, if you're gonna go to a restaurant you've already been to, in a way that's less exciting than an average restaurant, but that you haven't gone.
In some ways, because you know what you're expecting, you know it's going to be good.
Yeah, but you know it's going to be great. It's comfort. Yeah. It's
or
like
a volatile thing, right? Where it's like, oh, what if it might be good, it might be really bad. And we were discussing it earlier. Like some of Karak's most popular videos were on games that were just in that unsure realm. Even I think Greedfall was one of them too, where it's like people are unsure, so that makes for a more interesting kind of curiosity.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But
I mean, are you excited about, like, when you think about Spider-Man 2, are you going like, oh yeah?
Well, to be honest, I think it's because of what we talked about. I think it's because of what we talked about, where I'm like, I really am curious about Stalker 2. I'm so excited for that. I'm excited for Alan Wake. I'm excited for,
because that one is gonna be really different than the prior one too.
Yeah. I'm excited for these. I mean, look, Sony exclusives are awesome. Okay, they're really solid games, but we know it's going to be a third-person action-adventure game, and we're going to like it. But
we're gonna collect some backpacks.
Yeah,
and,
but when someone
get
comes
some
and
suits.
yeah, and this isn't a Microsoft thing. I'm saying in general, when someone comes and it's like, oh, there's a new big-ass CRPG like Baldur's Gate, or there's a new fucking immersive sim coming like Stalker, or there's a new like Bethesda game, it's like it excites me more than those surely,
Yeah, and
solid
anything
games,
that's a sequel is gonna have a hard time rivaling the excitement of a new IP. Like Bethesda, like when is the last time they did a new IP? Like what?
25 years.
25 years.
Oh wait,
That's...
yeah, 25 years. Unless you consider Fallout 3. If you consider Fallout 3 a new game, a new IP by them.
I see what you mean, but either way, it's been forever, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really match that. Like for people who like Bethesda, that's it's unmatchable.
I agree with all what you guys said. Yeah, I guess it's a known quality, so it's a comfort food.
Yeah.
I just personally, I don't know. I'm interested. I mean,
a known quality
I really
is
like Spider-Man though.
Yeah.
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 By the way,
one of the PlayStation exclusives that really surprised me in those like known qualities is Returnal, because it was very different than the other ones.
True. Yeah, it was. Yeah. What were we gonna say, Johnny?
We missed a super chat. SBZ is saying we missed his message. He was saying, without these good reviews, can I hang my giant Todd Howard picture on my living room again? I think you can safely. I think it's respectable for
people on Todd Howard.
It's such a weird dynamic, man. It's Phil Spencer is that like that too. It's that sort of
there's
prominent
a cult of personality, and it happened with Jim Ryan for a little while. It happened with Don Matrick. People don't remember this. Don Matrick, I know everybody hates him for Microsoft, but when Don Matrick started at Microsoft, that dude was a legend behind the scenes within business. That's why Microsoft hired him. He had done and obviously didn't, and they focused on something that made sense to them but didn't work out. But there was a cult of personality around all these guys. It's just one of those things where with Todd and Phil, they have a tendency to look like gamers and talk like gamers, and both have obviously played games, because I'll talk about a game. Phil Spencer's not achievement list, but his gamer tags live. He plays games with a lot of people I know, actual games, like they play games. He'll have like somebody was telling me one time they popped into a game and like he had level 60 character or something, which was a small whatever. It's not a small number of levels.
So he's gaming.
Yeah, he's gaming, and people respect it. It doesn't mean that they're going to be better at anything, but I think that it does. It's a little sense of familiarity.
Relatable.
Yeah, it's relatable, and you can.
I think for me, like Todd Howard, especially, just it's this nostalgia thing where it just makes me feel like I'm back in the day.
Well, and Todd Howard is a true gamer / developer. And he talks to gamers.
Like he used to crack games.
He used to crack games. He talks to gamers in a certain way. He does certain things. And I think that what happens is it's much easier to look at him and say, oh, I get where he's coming from because I was there. Like the joke that he just did that. And I put a GIF up where he was talking about how, other people said they were going to be a quarterback for the, Cowboys. And he's like, well, I'm going to develop games. Look who's laughing now. Yeah. And then he was like, yes, I was actually in, debate club or computer club or whatever.
Chess club. Yeah.
Chess club. But the thing is a lot of us were in chess club. I was. So to me, when I hear somebody say that, I'm like,
Model United Nations. Yeah.
Oh, were you? Oh, dude, Model United Nations. So we didn't have that. That would have been awesome. That would have been my go-to. Like I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, we didn't. We
debates and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so we had debate classes and clubs, but it wasn't like UN nations arguing over trade deficits. Like that would have been awesome.
We went to Washington and New York City for some.
Oh, did you? That kind of stuff is great. Yeah, I love that kind of stuff. I just think Todd Howard speaks to people they can usually understand. Even when he did the Lex Friedman podcast, he's not burned out. And I know people had an issue with John Carmack because he's a believer in crunch, and so there's a political aspect of some stuff he said.
He's a fucking dev, dude. Every dev is going to believe in crunch.
But what I was going to say is the funny thing about Carmack is, and like anybody, if you talk to anybody for too long, they're going to have something that's probably questionable. There are people on the internet who pretend they're perfect, but it's like when you get somebody in there personal life.
Those are the ones that have way more skeletons in their closet. We all know it.
Oh yeah, almost all the time, right? But
Yeah.
when you hear John Carmack talk, I will parse his discussion maybe 20 times. I'll look up stuff, I'll research stuff, because I'll be like, he's talking about a vertex buffer that he used for this or that, or
he has
mega
no
textures.
filter. He's very real.
He has no filter, but he's also so intelligent when it comes to what he wants to do or what he wants to try to push. That those three guys, and it's why John Romero, the other guy, I don't follow as much, because he's got a lot of cool discussions. I love watching GDC, but something about the way he talks doesn't. I love him, by the way. I like what he says sometimes, but it's not as in-depth as Carmack. And that goes for Ken Levine from the BioShock series. He doesn't talk about tech as much, but he talks about story at such a high level. And he'll talk about like Anne Rind or something, and people, or you'll be like, some people don't like that, but to me, that's where the true stories are created, is in the crunch of human life where shit's terrible. And BioShock Infinite had like slavery and all of these layers that, well, Saints Row wouldn't have shown. One's watered down, one's not. And when they can talk about it, it's amazing. Like there is that feeling when you hear somebody talk and you're like, I may not understand every word he said, but I actually understood 80% of it. And there's a familiarity there that it never really goes away, at least for me.
As long as you can relate to a portion of it.
Somebody was saying also, do you guys remember Hogwarts? Yeah, Hogwarts is awesome.
Yeah. Dude, that felt like years ago, man.
Dude, it does.
Back in my day when Hogwarts came out.
Remember? What were you doing back in the day when Hogwarts came out? It's like, dude, it was a couple months ago. Yeah, it's ridiculous,
Holy
man.
Shit, dude.
I was reviewing, and this is the most tired I've ever been. I got done with the review, and for me, it was but I slept for like 7 hours, which is a long time. I remember when I woke up, like my wife was like, yeah, that's the most tired you've ever been for a review. And I'm like, I'm not quite sure it was just this review. There's so much stuff going on with gaming and tech, the Discord patron, like everything's taking energy, all about games. It's fun, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And you can talk about one game for a long time, and then it feels like it came out 2 years ago. If you told me Hogwarts came out last year, I would believe you. I mean, I legitimately, for a second, thought it had come out last year.
Right, like February, so yeah, like you're not far off. I mean, yeah.
Doc says, I have a John Carmack autographed Doom poster, and it's my most prized possession. Dude, Carmack's awesome, man. Carmack's they both are. If you guys like this kind of stuff, I'm telling you right now, there's no better place to go than the GDC vault. Because
he is the nerd archetype.
Yeah, but there's a guy who worked on Spider-Man, and I feel so bad for not remembering his name, but he's a genius for creating the Spider-Man engine. And he talks about stuff like how in New York there's really only 3 alleys, which is why every movie filmed in New York looks like the same alley, because there's only these 3 alleys they always film in, and how he made new alleys for New York and Spider-Man, and how he did it with a graphics engine. And that guy he's like Carmack, where he was describing stuff you can pick up on. But it was also above, where you have to sort of take a note. I love that kind of stuff. I love when somebody's talking and you're all taking a note. You're like, what's he mean by mega texture? So I got to go look that up. And it's like choose your own adventure book. I respect Carmack a lot for pushing VR. Yeah, Carmack's the reason why DirectX is better too. Not perfect, but he is quite literally the reason why. Like
it's one of those exceptions where one single individual actually did impact.
Yeah,
like
he
actually
put his foot
the
down,
industry.
man. He put his foot down. Like he legitimately was like, I do not like DirectX. I'm going to continue to fight it until you guys.
Because in general, I'm against this cult of personality thing where people idolize the impact of a single person.
Yeah,
like in many ways, these big companies, without their processes, they can kind of run basically on rails to some extent.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
It's not like Todd single-handedly made Starfield, right?
Right.
But certainly we also have to hold at the same time the idea that individuals can have huge impact, and some do, and they are the exception. But I do think Todd has a strong vision. The way he talks, at least, does seem like he has a good way of channeling everything towards.
That's why I
what
don't
he
believe
was-
in the old idea of firing every CEO when they do something bad. 'Cause for years, that was the thing. It's become the thing again, but it went away for a while. And the reason why it went away was because companies were looking at their returns when they fired the only person with all the knowledge. And they were like, that's not a good idea. You know, and
Yeah.
I'm not saying if they do something heinous, you don't fire them. I'm saying when you get something that's like, oh, you know, he said something improper at this meeting and somebody said that they felt uncomfortable. And it's like, well, we're firing the CEO. How dare they, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, you're impacting 1 billion jobs, blah, 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 by removing the one person. And a lot of people will be like, CEOs are overpaid. I agree, many are. But there are also ones that their bonus is commensurate with their improvement. And if you are getting improvements and you've signed the contract to pay the person this, then that's on you to pay the person that. We also see that with some people bitching about old contracts, which, by the way, I've done on my job, where you look at a contract you did for cheap and they made a ton of money. And you're like, oh, I signed the contract wrong. But what we're getting now is this weird politicalization of it, where people are looking back on old stuff and saying, I want to go back in time and fix the contract. And it's like, well, you know, I don't really know if that works. Like, that was the contract at the time. Get a better agent or figure out your stuff. We're seeing it with a lot of actors and the movie strikes and all this too, where people are like, I didn't get paid for blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, was that in your contract? No. Okay. That sucks. You've lost that. But now you know, and make sure, which they should, by the way, be paid for, let's say, Netflix streaming, which is one of the big things that popped up, is the companies switched. And so the residuals are different. They get paid crap. Like, totally understandable that you hate that, but that is a decision that was made in the past, signed at the best of times when you thought it was going a certain way. Gone a different way. From now on, move forward, make those changes. It's painful. It sucks. Nobody wants to find out their team won the Super Bowl when they left, right? And that is what's happened. You know, that is what sucks. SBZ says, what are some of your thoughts on the PS Plus price increase? I actually thought they were going to increase the price a long time ago. I think.
Are they gearing up for cloud, or do you think they're going to start releasing?
You know, I
day
don't.
one?
That's the thing. I don't know. I don't know much about the price increase because I'm not a part of that plan. I don't have that plan. But
yeah, I have it. I guess I have it until like November.
Is it the one that gives you the older exclusives for free that you can like download? Or
well, yeah, older exclusive gives you. It's like Game Pass, but without day one releases. So it gives you. It has a lot of stuff. Like Sea of Stars came out on there as well.
Okay.
It just doesn't have their exclusive. Right. Because they know their fans want to buy those games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it sucks because I haven't seen the price increase and I don't know what the comparison is.
I mean, a price increase is always sucks to a certain extent for people.
Yeah, I mean,
but I think it's more than just that. I think maybe there's more to it, but we just don't know.
On the other hand, it is Sony, who, love them or hate them, have made some dumbass decisions lately.
Here's the thing, man. I love my PS5. I love my games on my PS5. I'm a huge fan of the PS5 controller, as I've said multiple times on the podcast. I'm a fan, but their customer service just drives me fucking nuts. The fact that I moved but I can't change my fucking region drives me fucking nuts. Their new PlayStation Portable was just like the stupidest fuck. This is just like icing on the cake, I guess. I just think their customer relation or community support is just complete trash, and I don't think anyone can argue that.
You know how some people believe their hype, like an NFL superstar will believe their hype, and they almost perform less because they're like, people will show up, or my history defines the future 100%. It's like, it never does. Yeah. It never does. You can always be fired. It's quite literally how it works. That's why fired is different than, say, laid off, which is different than retirement. I do agree, though, that like their choices seem like they're smelling their own farts, kind of thing.
They're becoming worse than Nintendo for me, and that.
I saw you post that in Discord. I don't know if I would agree with that. That's a lot, man.
It's close, man. I don't know. They just drove me nuts. I couldn't refund Star Wars. They're just so much. I tried contacting them multiple times to change my region. It's just completely impossible. Customer service most of the time just doesn't answer, and I'm not happy with them. I like the games there, and I like my PS5. And
I think that's the difference too, is that Game Pass gives you day one, and so people start looking at that, or they look at cloud stuff and they're like, play anywhere. And Microsoft, whether you like them or hate them, Microsoft has made some huge strides in so many different ways. Remember, they're the ones who did Xbox Live before anybody was doing online. Like
Xbox Live on the 360 was
in a way,
the best.
if you like them or hate them, it's like without them, they're probably, would be 9, 10, 15 different things that we expect as consumers to be base level that wouldn't even be there. They're a big company, so they can offer it. But yeah, I don't know, man. The Q device is insane. I
had a question about that. So they call it Portal, right? Portal.
Yes.
Q. I thought it was Q. Oh, is it Portal?
No, they changed it to PSP. PSP. Basically.
It's not. No, they're
not
saying,
a PSP, but
it's not PSP.
It's called PlayStation Portal. Yeah.
But I saw conflicting information. Some people saying you had to be connected to the same wireless network as your home.
You do.
And other people saying you could.
Okay. I saw some people that said you can. Yeah, you can any Wi-Fi.
Well, okay. Well, wait. What do we? No.
Like you can be in your friend's house and play your PS5 that's in your own house as long as you're connected to.
So it doesn't have to be the same network as the one that PlayStation
That
is
is
in?
not what they said. They stated it was for in-house local streaming.
That's
and their
what I thought.
example was if somebody has the TV, it is a second screen locally.
It's a Wiiu controller.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay. Yeah.
if you can, it still doesn't. So being that, by the way, people can probably figure out by using various VPN services and all those fake private networks you can do, you could probably stream from your house by pretending your IP at your friend's house was the IP at home. There are ways to do that, but I don't, from what I saw, that is not what it is. And even if it was, that is a very odd positive to have. Oh, you can be at your friend's house and play your local game. Like, all right.
Just cloud streaming would have been such a no-brainer. Such a no-brainer. Just
does anybody in here know in chat? Because I've got my windows up and I don't want to open another one and have it slow down the chat. But does anybody know if they've changed it and it's like that would be remote local? So you can do remote local streaming. Like it's a positive, but it's certainly not a positive that equals $200 for a device,
especially the price point. Yeah.
You can play as long as you have Wi-Fi connection. You can play from another country, but your PS5 has to be on. All right, so you can.
That's what I've been hearing, but it wasn't marketed as that. But that's what I've been hearing that you can.
So it's not cloud. It's mini cloud streaming.
It's just streaming from it's remote play. Yeah, from anywhere in the world.
Well, I
feel that's a missed opportunity. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Just if it was true cloud streaming, that would maybe open up a whole new market of portable devices that are running from cloud, right? That could be really interesting.
Well, also because Sony is embracing the cloud, they've already said, some of their games are going to be cloud service. So I don't know. I don't know. It's a device that doesn't do anything on its own either. So it's a little different than my One X player, which is a device that does all of its own stuff. And then you can also play cloud because you can use X Cloud. And they've stated you won't be able to use those. So it's a device that basically is a second screen wherever you are for your own PlayStation 5 that also has to be on and has to be, by the way,
only that.
Not NAT limited, which I just have a feeling because I know how these go that there's going to be somebody going to a different country trying to play. And it's like, I can't connect to your PS5. You're going to have to open that up in your Wi-Fi router, all that kind of stuff. Overall, it is what it is. I think the problem is we're even confused about it, which I think that is an issue because what I was seeing when I saw all these pop-ups was people were just saying that like, it was useless. That's not useless. That's just not useful or not.
Do you think they could maybe implement that cloud? Like, would the architecture allow for them to implement cloud streaming as a software update?
Yes. That's the problem, I think, Abzi, is that they didn't say that. Because if you said it's $200 and it does cloud from PlayStation servers and it does, that's a different device. It's still not its own device. I would
buy that though.
Yeah.
But
well, I don't know if I'd buy it, but it would be a much higher chance at $200 to buy that than one that just does the remote, from your system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, right? I mean, Xbox sort of fucked up too because like Starfield, it was very confusing if Starfield was going to be cloud on early access, and I had friends who bought it because they don't own an Xbox. So they bought Starfield early access thinking they were going to play on the cloud. and it's not available until the normal time. And I'm like,
Oh,
that makes no sense. The person fully
unfortunate.
purchased it. It's not a Game Pass that I'm talking about. They purchased the game and they have a premium because they thought they would be able to play early on the cloud, which to me, if Microsoft is saying you can do all this stuff, that should have been available moment one. Person's paid your price. Yes, they don't own an Xbox. That doesn't matter. It's like they paid your $100 or whatever for your premium Starfield. I don't remember what it costs. It's $89 maybe. Just seems to me like that's Microsoft fails too. Nintendo's still the worst. I don't know. You said Sony's as bad as Nintendo.
I was pushing it, man. I was really listen. I had a personal
Did it for
anger
the
with
clicks. Yeah.
I was just personally I just want to refund Star Wars, man. I hated that game and it ran like shit. So sorry, I'm just I didn't like that game.
I mean, no, there's here's the thing is like all of these big companies have some issue. You know, it's just like all games have some little issue. We were talking about each Star game, star in the name.
Star game. Oh, we got the new one from Ubisoft as well. So there you go. There's another one.
Vincent says basically you need good up and down on both ends for remote play. PS5 needs to have a good up and down, and whatever else also needs to be good up and down. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, guys. You're probably talking about a 50 megabytes. It's not too bad. It's pretty easy to do. I do it locally. I will say this, the PlayStation and the Xbox don't have their own encoders like the old systems did. So when I crank my Xbox to above 50 for local, the Xbox loses some frames because it's basically like envisioning software encoding. It's sort of like that. So one thing I do wonder is if you're remote and you use your Q or whatever this thing's called. What's it called?
Portal.
PlayStation Portal.
So you're using the portal. It depends on what they're doing when it comes to the encoding too, because then you could see frame rate dumps and stuff that aren't even related to. I mean, you are talking about a heavy amount of encoding. So you have that as well. And I don't know a lot of people have 50 up. I know I don't even have 50 up. I have now we're talking internet. So local, this is not an issue.
If you don't have, if you're on a coaxial, you're not gonna have much upload speed.
Remember what did you used to call it?
Coaxial.
If you have a coaxial.
Coaxial. What is it called? Coaxial.
Coaxial. But I love that you. I remember one of my friends would always call co-op cope. He'd be like, or coop. He'd be like, so we're gonna play coop, and I'd be like, yeah, melee or Malay.
Malay.
I always get shit for that. Basically,
Melee.
that person said that if you don't play on TV, I'm just playing remote play on my MacBook. So that is one thing, by the way. The remote play is also available on other devices, including $50 handhelds you can buy. So there is that, and your cell phone.
There you go.
Yeah, there's it's weird. It's weird.
It's just very weird because they even didn't they announce that they were coming up with something new for cloud tech?
Yes,
or like a new cloud system.
Yeah, yeah. Sony's pushing cloud like that. Their idea is to they stated for a long time there's no such thing as cloud, and then all of a sudden they realized, well, yeah, there's probably things cloud.
Well, their old cloud service sucked ass. So
I heard it did. I didn't get to see it. For me, the best has been GeForce, followed by Xbox, but GeForce has been, I mean.
I had one experience with it playing Everspace 2, and it just ran amazing on my shitty ass old MacBook Air. So
it's ridiculous how good GeForce works. Like, I mean, I was doing Cyberpunk 4K maxed out. What is it called? Psycho ray tracing or whatever, and I was just like, "Oh my god, this plays
tracing
better than my PC." Like, there, because you'll have Windows running, it'll have the occasional stutter, but those are just blades in the sky running, a basic version of Windows. In fact, I don't even know if it's Windows. Yeah, it would, because DirectX shows up, so it's not Linux. Let's see. Oh yeah, GeForce is great. Vincent says, kind of wish MS dialed down Starfield marketing a bit. Imagine Dragons. You mean Bethesda? That's not Microsoft.
Did they have a lot of Starfield marketing?
I heard that there was none, and now I hear somebody saying there's too much. So it's like you never
they had
quite
one
know.
Direct. Yeah, some trailers. But Cyberpunk, every week you had like a new thing that showcased something totally not in the game, or just
totally not in the game. With Starfield, I know some people were like, "Oh man, there's a song. This is bad," and it's like, to me, every game has.
I hate
either
Imagine
Dragons
so much, but it's fine. I guess.
Do you know I don't hate any band? Dude, I was thinking about that a couple days. No, I saw somebody say, "Oh, I hate Imagine Dragons." I'm like, dude, some of their songs are banging. Like, I don't.
Okay, well, they get on my nerves, man.
I mean, but the thing with music is you can turn it off. So, like,
yeah,
how do they get on your nerves? You mean when you hear them randomly or something, like on a radio?
Dude, because I think I was watching that League of Legends show Arcane, and it was like a steampunk show, and it had a really cool atmosphere.
Oh, did it have Imagine Dragons in it?
Yeah, and so the music they used for it just did not match anything. So that's when I cemented. I was like, why the fuck are they here? So it's probably not their fault, obviously. But
oh no, I mean, I'm sure some company looks at it's just like rap in the Mortal Kombat ones, which didn't fit. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. It doesn't matter if it's your favorite band. Like, I have favorite bands. I like Eminem, for example, as rappers. If he showed up,
but you don't want it in a
I don't want it. Or JRPG, you know, where you're like playing Persona and you got him go.
You're just playing anime waifu titties. And
you're
like,
you got Too Short in there. Put my finger in a paint straight. Go to work, and you're like, why? Why is he here? Like, that makes no sense. That's the thing about music that matters. And I do want to point out again, Starfield's music is fucking tremendous. But music matters in the trailers, all that stuff, because there's an edge to it that like adds, if it does well, it's additive to like.
They use some of my favorite synths and like and music I listen to, and when I notice it, it just tickles my fancy, man. I'm like, oh, give me more of that.
Yeah, good music is insane.
And dude, like even going around the city in the free New Atlantis or whatever, what was it called? The dynamic, like, it changes. It's very dynamic, and in some parts it gets darker and really cool.
Dude, the music in Starfield is not only phenomenal, I'm blown away by how many callbacks it has to, like, nobody's going to remember this but me, but 2001 A Space Odyssey, 2012 is the other one, 2012 or 20 is the other one with Rob
Schneider?
No, the older actor from Blue Thunder and Jaws, Rob Schneider. All right, no, Schneider's a comedian, right? Schreider. Can't remember. Somebody will correct me. But it's got a bunch of Star Wars callbacks in this one. In fact, one of the things I love is it fades out and then it'll pop up with like an oboe or a string or a flute or a harp, and then it'll build back up in Starfield, and it's just like, oh, it's iconic already. Like, I love it. Did Jeremy Soule do the music? No, it was Zur, right? Enon Zur.
Actually, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It is. It's Jeremy Soule's not doing, stuff anymore because of all the issues.
Yeah, Enon Zur. What a good.
All right, so
it's some legendary music.
It's incredible. No. So let's talk about game design. What was your question, Abzy, that you put in?
Well, I addressed it earlier. Actually, I addressed it earlier. So basically, I feel like, and this happened with a lot of games recently. It happened with Elden Ring as well, where a lot of the time, and you're a game reviewer, I mean, you can comment on that, what you think of that, but I feel like there's always a push and pull. In life, okay, there's always compromise. You're not going to get good shit without sacrifice, right? And I feel like, especially with the scope of technology, with the scope of game development, with the scope of the years they can put into it, just realistic expectations, I feel like too many people focus on what the game isn't rather than what the game is. And just unrealistic with some expectations where they focus on, like, for example, let's take Starfield, right? Where it's like, oh, it doesn't have this or that, it doesn't have the seamless travel in the planet, right? Rather than going like, oh, it has these awesome quests, it has this, you know what I mean? So they're always because another game does have that, but they forget the fact that other game isn't providing the other things that this game has. So I feel like it's constantly a push and pull, and rather than just hitting on a game and focusing on the things you don't like about it, or you wish it had, why not just make your opinion on what the game does provide? You know what I mean? Because I feel like there's always going to be compromise no matter what, because there's a bandwidth to everything, I feel like, in life,
Yeah, I think we talked about it with Baldur's Gate too, where people were like, oh, Baldur's Gate's got these amazing characters. Every game needs to have it. It's like, first of all, it's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. If that happened, then every game prior that had good characters, every game after that would have good characters. It hasn't been true ever, and it's not going to be true with Baldur's Gate. It's not going to be true with Starfield having everything that No Man's Sky. If it was, it would be called No Man's Sky 2. It wouldn't be called Starfield. Yeah.
And the Elden Ring example was like, with the scope of Elden Ring, for example, if you're the world is that vast, you are gonna get repeats of stuff. You know what I mean? Like there are some stuff that are a given that you can't expect all bosses in a massive world to be unique. For like that's another example.
Yeah, I did see that with Elden Ring for sure. What were you gonna say, Jonny? Did I interrupt you?
No, I was gonna say that the way I view it is you have many levers you can pull in, meaning dials you can adjust, how much interaction do you have with your companions, for example. How many options will you have when it comes to decisions that affect the story? All these things are like dials, and some of them are actually mutually exclusive or orthogonal in a way that if you pull on one dial, it's going to affect another. So you could say that you can have a very carefully crafted linear story, but the more you make it branching, you're going to have to make some compromises there. So it's, in a way, you can't view it as, bullet points. Like we have to have all these things. It's everything is coupled.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly it. That's exactly what I mean.
I think also,
and I'm not saying don't point out flaws. Of course, like you can point out flaws and talk about flaws. There's a difference between what the game is trying to do and what it achieves, and what it's not trying to do,
and what it's trying to do and doesn't achieve. So when you're reviewing, especially when I'm reviewing, I have to remove. I look at what they've said and I look at what I get, and I will say, oh, they said this, it's not there. Cyberpunk is a good example. Cyberpunk said a bunch of stuff, but Cyberpunk is really an outlier for that. So a lot of people are like, oh, these guys lied, or these guys said this. Is like, not really. Even when you look, for example, at Starfield, when they talked about tile generation, they did talk about it. We missed it because everybody was talking about other stuff, but it was actually mentioned exactly how it was done. And then you saw a tweet from somebody that put some shadow on exactly what you're getting. And some of the devs don't want to talk too much about their games too, but a lot of it's about what they try to do and fail at. And I personally, dude, we see it all the time where you see somebody be like, oh, every game needs to be like Elden Ring. Not only do I not believe that, I don't want them to do another Elden Ring. I would love to see I would love to see a Dark Souls prior to another Elden Ring for a million reasons. I loved Elden Ring. I liked Elden Ring more than any Dark Souls. I would still rather see them do a Dark Souls and take what they learned from Elden Ring and see if they can make Dark
a more
Souls
curated experience.
Yeah. And I love No Man's Sky. Don't want to see them do No Man's Sky 2 unless it's dramatically better or what have you. But all these games I love, I don't want them to make that same game 10,000 times. By the way, anybody arguing with me, I heard this with Starfield. Oh, well, if they just make Fallout in space, that's going to be a problem. It's like it absolutely could be. That for sure could have been a problem.
And it is a problem for some people.
And it is a problem for some people, yeah. So I think it can go any way. But for me, I don't want to see there's false expectations for sure. But I think when you look at PR, I have far more of an issue with people than I do with PR. But that's also because I can smell PR because I've worked in it. So you see somebody talking and you're like, nope, not going to happen. Yeah. I admit I believed a lot of Cyberpunk because it was Cyberpunk and because of CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
And then I heard a lot of behind the scenes where people were like, something's happening.
And then then we're seeing something like Crimson Desert trailer where it's doing like 20 fucking thousand games in one. And it's like, oh, it's like all these games together and all in one fucking game.
And you're sitting there going, if it works, it's going to be like what they offer. If they deliver it well, it will be awesome. But the people, it's a difficult discussion too, because hope gets, it's like Christmas and you get socks and that's not what you wanted to buy, man. And you're like, socks are great and it's a gift, and it's a gift if I wanted socks. And that's the way games are. It's a gift if it's what you wanted and they deliver it well. And if it's not, a lot of people want to look at they want to turn it into a lie or whatever. And a lot of times it's not. Just what they tried to do. It didn't work out. Brandon, $5 super chat. What's your guys' opinion on PS Plus price? We did just talk about it. We didn't really have a thought process because I don't think any of us have a PS Plus subscription right now.
I do.
No,
I do.
Oh, you do. You said yours is running out.
Do you get value from it, Absi? Do you use it?
Not right now, but when I initially bought my PS5, I got a lot of
right.
Dude Returnal
Yeah.
was on there. I played a lot of Horizons on there right now. Ratchet and Clank is on there. I think if someone hasn't played those games, you can absolutely get money's worth. But
Absolutely.
with the price increase, yeah, I don't know. It depends on someone's financial situation. You know, increasing prices always without increasing other benefits is not always the best thing. Yeah.
Mr. Peoples from the People Show says, I used to say Paladin like Aladdin.
Wait, it's 160 now?
A year.
Oh, premium. Okay. Because premium is the one that gives you like the PS2 and PS3 games.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had that. Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't mess around with it right now, so I don't have anything other than to say that if it's risen, then my chances of getting into it without having it right now are a little bit lower because it's more expensive. So that impacts me, where when you know a price to enter into something is a little bit more expensive, you're like, now I have to gauge it more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Prices are going to increase forever.
I'm sure they got
just are.
analytics on it where it's like the price increase is going to offset the amount of people that are going to unsubscribe.
And they are known. Here's the big missing thing that PlayStation doesn't have. They don't have their exclusives on there. And if that ever happened, it would be beyond belief a deal. But I just don't think that's going to happen where they do day and date.
I think they have
exclusives.
some stuff.
No,
right?
I mean
like,
day and date. They're just not doing it.
Oh, day and date.
Yeah.
Wait, is it double actually? Like it went from 60 a year to
Somebody said it was
120
30% higher.
Oh, okay. Jesus.
Sorry, guys, we just don't know, and I'm not going to open my browser to check just because I just don't know. I've seen multiple people who seem to have already stated the price. So,
right.
Yeah, it is one of those things that looks like Adam says PS Plus price increase caused me to decide to cancel. Consider switching to PC gaming. That's a big switch.
Wow.
Because
That's
PC
huge.
gaming's super expensive.
Yeah, that's
Unless
way
he
more
already
money
has
than
PC.
the price increase. Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, because, dude, PC gaming's going to get more expensive, too. We've talked about this earlier. Yeah. It's not going to stop where expectations for your hardware go up. It's not. Mm-hmm. Developers are just done. And I talked about it last podcast with WMR being an issue with so many platforms. These companies are like, listen, we can't test for a 1050 Ti or whatever those ancient ones that Takedown runs. He used to run one when he was trying to do VR. Was 1050 Ti sound right? It's ancient. Whatever he was running was ancient.
Who?
Takedown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He was running something ancient when he was trying to do VR, and it was ridiculous. It was like, dude, man,
1050 Ti is one card I never really hear about that much.
Yeah, well, probably because that thing
1060s, but
APUs are getting good though. I've got the I'm still reviewing that B-Link, right? Yeah. And their little APU runs a lot of the new games quite well. So it runs Cyberpunk. You have to do FSR, obviously, but it's pretty crazy to see how powerful these are now. We'll make them dance. ACG, they do put their exclusives on PS Plus. Oh, day and date. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Not first day.
No.
They put them after.
No, that's what I said multiple times. I've stated I'm talking about day and date, guys. I do know that.
That was my confusion as well.
No, day and date is way different than
it is
their exclusives going. It's like not
deal.
even. Yeah,
I mean, it's a deal breaker.
It is a deal breaker. That's a perfect way of putting it. Right.
If it's a day one exclusive, it's 100% worth it.
Oh, dude, if it was day one for PlayStation exclusives, I like
Spider-Man 2 day one.
Yeah, that'd be ridiculous. Of course you'd do it. Yeah, because it would just save you money in the. I mean, even two games. Yeah. It's like, there we go. That paid for the year.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's why, like, Game Pass, I never cancel it. Ever. Because I'm just like, if it's an old game, doesn't matter if it's cloud, what have you. If it's an old game, if it's a new game, if it's a game I missed, I know there's exclusives. It's paid for itself. It probably in March had already paid for itself for the year. Because it was just like, hey, I can get a couple games. I still buy them for the review, but it's all those other games.
I played Signalis, and that alone is worth every month I put money into Game Pass. All right, so
Pentiment was on there. Somerville was on there.
Yeah.
The last case of Ben. And by the way, I'm purposely announcing games that are not like the best games ever. Bramble King. There's these B-level games that are on there. Then you have the third party they sometimes get. Then you have their exclusives, and it's like, for example, Forza is coming, and I cannot wait for a tried and true Forza. I mean, I love Horizon, and I was a huge negative Nancy about Horizon when it first came out. I was like, no one's gonna want to. Oh no, the original Horizon.
Oh, original.
I was like,
were you
dude.
like a sim car like?
No. I mean, I had my
purist,
sim
or-
stuff, but the idea just didn't met out. I was like, dude, this
Gotcha.
what? Yeah, they're known for this. I want them to continue. And then they did Horizon. I was like, okay, scratch that. Like their side games are incredible.
Hi-Fi Rush was awesome as well. Yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush, yeah, Quake. They just did the Quake
Quake 2.
random remaster drop without telling anybody.
Yeah.
Let's see.
They should do more of those. I hope they keep doing more of those.
The shadow drops.
Shadow dropping, yeah. Just
Shadow
going
drops
like,
are hard, man, because
They
that
are.
PR. If the
No
PR
marketing?
breaks, no
Oof.
marketing. I don't know how well Quake. I don't know if Quake set the world on fire, but Hi-Fi Rush did.
Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi
yeah,
Rush was. I mean, I
insane.
remember people being like, "Oh my god, this
Dude,
game
my
looks
friends
awesome.
that
It's
weren't
actually
even
fun."
gamers, they were like, "Yo, did you hear of Hi-Fi Rush? I'm
Yeah.
playing it because they like rhythm stuff. Yeah, it's insane."
The last crash was high prices and lower quality. Inundate the markets. Hopefully, it will sell correct before that. The last crash was way more than that, my friend. I lived through the last crash. I'm assuming he means back in the old Atari 2600 day. That was a crash, and that was
when
far more than
gaming
quality.
was about to die. Because
it was not
after
only that, but it was
PT?
because there was a massive gulf between the current power of systems and the new power they were able to deliver. So what you started getting was a generation that wouldn't move forward, and not to be rude, but those games looked like shit. And after even a little while, you realize that, and you can't do as much artistically with an ancient console. Graphically, we're talking Atari 2600, like 16 colors on screen. In the Indiana Jones rulebook, or the book that came with the game, it had to tell you who Indiana Jones was on the screen. That's how bad the graphics were. It had to say, you are the dude with the brown
You need
blob
an
on his head.
arrow. Like
That's how bad it was. And so what happened was a lot of developers knew that there was no jump, and so they all fled. They all sort of pushed into this one particular area of games and what they look like. There was a lot of copies, a lot of stuff like that. But it had far more to do. A lot of people will chalk it up to just like bad quality or bad games. But it was also that there was just no push at that time. There was no technical ability to push up a more powerful system, which is why the NES did so well when it did. Because the NES came along. Commodore 64 was a game machine, but it wasn't very good at the other stuff. And so you had Apple IIe, which is what I have still. And then you had Commodore, and there were issues there. Those were some good times, though, man. When you put a floppy disk in an Apple II and it sounds like it's eating it to load the game was one of the greatest sounds I ever experienced as a kid. I'd put it in there, it's a floppy disk, and you shut it, and you turn it on, and the Apple II would go like, and it was like a modem. Remember when you're a kid and you hear the call sound? But to the Apple II, the disk drive, just hearing that thing chugging away and loading your game was...
I miss just like with old TVs and CRTs and hearing that.
Oh, when it powers up a tube?
Powers on or off, yeah.
Or when the tube goes off.
Yeah.
And you're all, uh-oh. I ruined a lot of TVs when I was a kid, too. Because you're back there, and they used to have the rabbit ears. You're back there moving shit and touching electronics with your fucking scuffing your socks as a 7-year-old, so you're staticky. Come up there, you touch the back. And by the way, people get shot. I mean, that shit was not made safe. Like, you'd have your pop. I spilled so many Kool-Aids at the back of a TV and told my dad the TV just turned off. And he'd be like, okay, I guess we buy another one. But it was always my fault. It was always my fault. I also put a 27-inch CRT, which probably weighed 500 pounds, on a cardboard box because I had no money I had no money for a desk. So I put a massive TV on there. And Randy, my friend, he's passed away. We were playing Sega Saturn's virtual race, not virtual racing. It was the other one, Sega Daytona. And we were playing, and I pulled the cord, and it slightly moved the Saturn, and it pushed the TV to where, if you look at a cardboard box, if you go in the center, it's going to collapse. And the TV slightly adjusted, and it was like, boom, and it fell on its side.
Did it just break?
Oh, yeah, dude,
break
did it
the
break?
screen?
Oh, you could hear that thing. Like, it hit, and it was, I don't know if you guys have ever heard a TV tube blow up, or like a amp tube. Or do you guys ever have the globes of storm where you could touch them and the electricity would shock? You could
yeah.
If you ever break one of those, it's like it's a shotgun going off. It's because the gas expands, and then it like many times, depending on what it's made, you'll hear ignition, or you'll hear like that electricity. That TV hit. It was like boom. I mean, it sounded like a shotgun going off in my apartment. $500 shotgun, one shot, no warranty. OSD Gaming, GSD Gaming. Sorry, not OSD. $2 super chat. Speaking of Forza, how do you feel about Fable? Yeah, I don't know.
We didn't see much, right? The cinematic looked cool. It has the
cool,
British
but
guy,
it
IT crowd
really
guy.
excite me on
It
Fable.
didn't excite me either.
I think that excited only the people who know the
Right.
IT crowd show.
It's Imagine Dragons,
they like
but
that
as an
guy.
actor. It's Imagine Dragons as an actor. It's
Imagine
just like
Dragons all over again.
Yeah,
no, it is. I mean, it is. It literally is.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, look, we're putting the actor in there, and you're like,
Because that's literally
all right.
the only reason I was like, that could be fun. Because,
know.
you know, he's a
Yeah.
funny
it could
guy.
be fun because this actor's in
And
it.
Have
the
you
It's
tried
like,
role-
turning it off and turning it on again?
how many shit games have we got with
Yeah.
good actors in them? A lot. Cyberpunk. But yeah, so that's the
Yeah,
thing,
true.
right? Like you see it and you're all, oh, I
Yeah.
know that's their game. They know the IT crowd sells, man.
Yeah,
they
and
sold
how
to you,
many
Johnny?
great ideas become terrible games?
Many, most.
You know, and great actors
Yeah.
also show up in terrible games. So we just don't know anything.
I'm excited for Mortal Kombat getting Claude Van Damme finally, because this has now been their 15th, 20th game, and they finally got the guy who made Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage was supposed to be
Cage. Yeah.
Claude Van Damme. So to finally get
And
him,
like in
that's
the
a
original
get.
movie,
Yeah,
was he
the
supposed
original
to...
game, dude? The original, very
based
first
on-
game is based
Yeah.
on
Oh.
Claude Van Damme. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
yeah.
Same with, I think Liu Kang was based on Bruce Lee.
Oh, I
right?
wouldn't doubt it. I mean, you look at it,
Yeah.
or at least a simile, you know, like some kind of like somewhat
definitely.
connected part. Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
dude. It was the idea of getting him is awesome because they got Rambo, they got RoboCop, they got the Alien, they got Arnold Schwarzenegger, they got all these
Terminator.
guys, and
Yeah.
so it's like finally to get him to me is like that's awesome. It's sort of a turnaround. Now, will I like Mortal Kombat? I don't know because they haven't grabbed me. Their isometric dimensions invasions thing for this new one looks legit though, so
Okay.
I'm excited for that.
Okay.
Okay. So SEK 500, I think that's Seek.
50 SEK. I don't know what that is.
Denmark or something. If Xbox would let gamers vote for a game to make from all their IPs, what game would you vote for, dude? Shadowrun. What are you talking about? No question. Shadowrun. FPS
sure.
that did well instead of Cyberpunk. That was friggin' Shadowrun. I would kill an entire room of people for that. Like without even a second thought. I wouldn't save scum. I would just kill them. Can you imagine? Or what about Crimson Skies? Oh, you guys are probably too young for Crimson Skies.
I have no idea what Crimson Skies
It's
is.
a flight. It's a airplane, post-apocalyptic airplane fighting game that you could also dock with other planes and steal their planes. And it was a shooter. It was a multiplayer, like, well, it had single player as well.
Okay.
But it's considered one of the best games that they've ever
That's kind of
released.
cool. A fighting game with airplanes. Interesting.
Yeah, and then they also did Wake. What was that Death Wake, which was the boat? They also did Mech Warrior Commander, right? Mech Warrior Commander. Does that sound right?
Ah.
They did those because they own the FASA IP. I believe Microsoft still owns the FASA IP, which is all the D&D games. So basically,
by the way, I searched
as
that
Kel
up.
just said, so basically former FASA properties. Yeah, exactly. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I searched that up, and that's Swedish crowns.
Swedish
and
crowns.
that's about like $5.
$5. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Somebody's saying that people are bitching about chatting at each other in a chat. Crimson Skies was amazing, old boy says. Yeah, Mech Commander. Is that what I said? I think that's what I said. But yeah, Mech Commander 1 and 2 was Microsoft. Microsoft has some serious IPs. But you guys are too young to know their old IPs, right? For Microsoft? Like you guys are, I mean...
I know, Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Dude, that's an exclusive. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Microsoft Flight Sim is tremendous. It is a classic premier title. And to see that on the consoles and on cloud is... Oh, flying in Microsoft Flight Sim is mind-blowing graphics-wise. Did you guys also see they added boats and shit? They've added all kinds of stuff to that.
So much shit to it, yeah.
Freelancer,
They
Bob
got
says,
like stealth planes or something?
Freelancer would be incredible. Yeah, dude, they've added everything. They added F-16, I believe. They added at least one fighter jet. I don't know if you can blow like biplanes out of the air or, you know, somebody's Cessna. That'd be amazing if you could fly around and shoot normal planes out of the sky. Catalyst Game Labs. Yeah, that was Catalyst was Shadowrun, right? I think Catalyst did Shadowrun. They also did what's the Phantom Dust? Did you guys ever play that? Phantom
No.
Dust, the multiplayer anime game that was so big on the original Xbox, they did a remake on the Xbox One, the new ones. And I don't know where that's going right now. I think the remake didn't do so well, but I would kill to see a Phantom Dust. You guys never played Phantom Dust? Because that was original Xbox 360. Neither one of you? Wow.
Original
No.
Xbox, yeah, I don't play that. No. Yeah.
I think that's because age-wise, Microsoft has sat on their IPs for a long time. Microsoft has this IP chest, and for whatever reason, other than Age of Empires, which they've done a great job bringing back, they really haven't done it. They also haven't done it with Gears Tactics 2. I don't know why, because Gears Tactics was one of the best goddamn, turn-based games that ever. Yes, dude. Gears Tactics is incredible. It does everything right for changing a first-person or third-person shooter into a
Maybe
turn.
they think there isn't much they can do.
They know the numbers,
continue
right,
that,
Johnny?
Like to
Yeah.
add to
Right.
it. I don't know.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, true.
Like the interest maybe wouldn't be there for a second installment. I don't know.
Phantom Dust was awesome. Stephen Hing says, not Stephen King, Stephen Hing. That reminds me, Stephen Hick, I believe, or Flick, can't remember his name, the guy who does Night Dive Studios. They are talking about a bunch of remakes they're doing after this recent one that they did. I think there's rumors. There was a rumor of Blood, but I don't think that's happening. But there was a rumor of Unreal coming from them. I would love to see Unreal. Dude, it's crazy how many IPs there are. Like, we talk about these new ones like Final Fantasy, or not new ones,
Lost
but the big
Odyssey
ones. But
to get like
who
a
doesn't?
remaster or something.
Lost Odyssey's
Yeah.
just not happening though, right? I think Lost Odyssey
Damn.
is sort of the one game
Lost
that guy
in the
did
sauce with licensing and shit.
licensing, and Xbox. I don't know. There's something about Xbox that a lot of those Japanese developers don't seem to.
He was the guy from
Final Fantasy.
like some Final Fantasies, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you remember, Lost Odyssey had the Final Fantasy menu sound. And that pissed a lot of people off. It was very close to Final Fantasy, and a lot of people were like, that's a copyrighted sound. You can't have that sound in there.
Yeah.
Bring back Two Human? No.
Too human, man. Oh, is that a
Ice skating
Viking?
Vikings.
Like,
No, come on,
man.
come on, don't
What
hurt
a
me like
blast
that.
from the fucking
No, oh, I
past,
thought you were
man.
going to say a blast. I was like, get off the
No,
podcast.
no. It was
Well,
a bad game.
It was a bad game, and it could have been good. It had
But it was
all
the twin
the
stick
trappings.
shit too, right? Yeah, it had like that weird
Skating
control system.
for it was terrible movement. Go ahead, Johnny. I interrupted you, man. I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna just say that some of those older games, they worked at the time because all you could execute was a simple idea. You had one thing, which is
Good point.
I'm thinking back to that police cop mech game. It was kind of an older one. I don't know if you guys played that one.
Mech game.
Is
Syndicate?
it called Police Cop?
No, not
Police
Syndicate.
Cop.
Police Cop mech game. Police
RoboCop?
mech game. RoboCop, Police Cop.
I'm blanking on the name, so it doesn't matter. Just think of any of these older games, right?
Uh-huh.
Where you kind of have, or Descent is also a very much older game. You kind of have the one thing you're doing in the game. And now that doesn't fly anymore for a
Absolutely,
game
I
to
know
only
what you're
have the
saying.
one thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You need to build around that. Oftentimes you need a story, you need something engaging, maybe you need multiplayer, right? So it's just sometimes it's hard to build around that simple essence.
Well, dude,
for some of those older
you're
games.
absolutely right, because Amped was one of my favorite snowboarding games of all time, beyond one of my favorite, and it's Microsoft. But nobody wants to do just snowboarding. They want to do Riders Republic or Steep, where it's like you have parachutes and you have this and you have that, because they can't just do one. And Amped, if somebody said there was a new Amped, that would be incredible. There's another game. Either one of you guys do Forsaken?
No.
Oh my god, wait, maybe.
No, not Forsaken. It's the Descent-like one, but it was known for, it was one of the first with colored lighting that would color the world itself. It's not Forspoken.
Is it
Yeah,
not
Forsaken.
Forsaken?
It's Forsaken.
98 first-person shooter game?
Listen to this.
Oh, no.
Do you know what it's called a power claim to fame is? The absolute smoke show hottie on their title box. She is.
Yeah, I can see
it's
that.
beyond gorgeous. And I remember when they chose that, people saw that, and I had all my friends going, dude, I'm getting that game. And I'm like, well, why? You don't even know what it is. And they're all, yeah, but I think it'll be good. It reminds me of Two Worlds. Two Worlds did that, where they would put like the gorgeous, person, the supermodel on the front. We saw Fabio was in the male actor was on the front of Kingsfield, I think. He's been on the front of a couple SNES and N64 games. Fabio, the male actor, he was on those too when they knew that the box could sell, couple 100,000 games.
Yeah, interesting. By the way, the game I was talking about is Future Cop LAPD. I don't know if you guys.
I legit have never heard of this game. Yeah, that's interesting.
It was an obscure
familiar.
PC game.
Oh my god, it looks very familiar.
Remake
It's
Kingpin.
like-
Oh yeah, Kingpin.
It's a mech. It's like a twin stick shooter kind of.
Yeah.
A mech. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't tell you for sure, but it sounds like something. I
So is it like
played,
Brigador
man.
or Brigadier or Brigador, the game that came out a couple years ago that was like isometric mech game? Is it like that?
Well, because wasn't that turn based? The one you
No,
just
no, no.
said?
Brigador was action, all action. Yeah.
Okay. All action, baby. Let's go.
Hexen reboot. Yeah, I would kill for Hexen. What I was trying to get to is there's a lot of reboots we do want, but Microsoft
Sure.
and
yeah.
now Embracer is more troublesome because are they going to sit on those IPs they purchased and like, I don't want a bunch of remakes, don't get me wrong, but there's some IPs that aren't remake. Their drive isn't remake, their drive is the world. For example, Cyberpunk is one thing, but Shadowrun's entire world, it's a D&D world. It's on its 6th edition for D&D. It's hyper popular. And is Microsoft just sitting on that IP where, let's say, Harebrained Studios or something, could go back because they're the ones who made the others, I believe, the other two Shadowruns that were the CRPG turn-based. Future Cop LAPD. First Cyberpunk aesthetic game I played was Angel Devoid. Man, that's a name right there. Angel Devoid. It means nothing, but it's like it's got a thought process.
Devoid of a name.
Legacy of Kain. Somebody just said Embracer has Legacy of Kain. So there you go. Legacy of Kain is not a remake needed. It's a IP world that I would like to see fleshed out. So I don't want a remake or remaster. I would like to see. Oh, Conquer. Yeah, Conquer's another one. We saw Psychonauts 2 do so well, one of their top sellers and top played and critically acclaimed. I'm hoping we see some more like a Conquer from them. I would like to see Psychonauts 3, though, because Psychonauts 2 was legitimately... It might be my favorite platformer of all time. Psychonauts 2...
I think it's like... Psychonauts 2 is one of the few games, and I've watched like the documentary, and I've played a lot of the game, and I think it's one of those games where it's like, it's just a 10 out of 10 game.
Yeah, it is, right? Yeah. I mean, I have no problem saying that, like, if I hate fucking numbered stuff, but if I like numbered stuff. Somebody else was saying that too. They were saying that it feels like numbered scores are pretty broken. I mean, numbered scores have always been broken.
Yeah, because it becomes relative, and when you get into relativity, it goes all over the place, and it's weird, and
AJ Czar 70 super chat. Love the content, gentlemen. What do you guys think of a Rise of the Argonauts remake? It might seem too similar to AC Odyssey. Dude, nobody knows that game but me. I'm so happy somebody finally mentioned. Have you guys played that?
Obscure.
It was basically, listen to this.
No.
It was like an action-based Mass Effect in the old Immortals, Jason and the Argonauts kind of mythology.
Is that the one on the Xbox One?
Yeah. Dude, it was, and it had you do shit like sit down and take and rule for your leadership. It had you like make huge, it was like Obsidian Protocol, but fantasy. So you could make massive changes in the game world by a choice you make. Like a god would never follow you again. You couldn't get their power. Game is... Man, that game is good. Yeah,
and that setting is cool. Jason and the Argonauts, lots of cool, myth
there
stories.
Used to be so many gladiator games that came out, like a lot of them.
Yeah, I think that's sort of gone other than VR. We don't see a lot of gladiator
we
games.
saw some like genital jousting ones that were around physics.
Yeah.
No, without the genitals, but that were about physics.
Okay. Because I was like, we need to talk about that. Capcom, somebody said they're sitting on Dino Crisis, new Thief. Yeah, I would love to see a new Thief. They really failed. I'm sorry. I thought Thief 2014 was fucking terrible.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. Dude, that game doesn't... It's like Splinter Cell where they changed Michael Ironside And you're like, dude,
Yeah.
it's not that it's not, it's that
like-
other stuff
yeah.
changed too. And
It's like
Thief-
Arrested Development after season 3. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember Jason and the Argonauts. Don't remember the choices being so big, though. Yeah, I just replayed that, Rogerio, about 3 years ago. I got it running. It's got sort of terrible controls, but it was one of those games where you have the digital pad so you can switch between like mace and shield, spear,
Yeah.
and it had full spear attacks well before like Assassin's Creed finally added them in Odyssey.
Damn.
No, not Odyssey. They added them in Valhalla. The spear attacks weren't in
Odyssey.
one of...
They were in Odyssey. They were in Origin.
No, spear attacks are missing in one of the big ones because it's a big thing with Silver. Silver bitches about it all the time.
Oh, I thought he just bitches about the way you
He
do spear
bitches about a
attacks.
lot of stuff, but he was bitching in particular about spear attacks not being in
Yeah.
one of the AC games that were based in the spear.
Oh,
hoplite.
Egypt, right?
I feel like
Egypt.
it wasn't in Odyssey, man.
Pharaohs?
I feel like
In
I
Odyssey,
thought-
there were spears.
okay,
There
so
were
you guys,
spears,
I'll
I
take two
remember.
against one. Any
Because
day.
you didn't like spear. Dude, it was. They were. Remember, you played as Leonidas in the beginning of the game. You had a spear as well.
Okay,
It's
so
like
it
one
would
of
have
the
been
biggest
Origins
things.
that they weren't there.
Because
Yeah,
Sparta.
Origin maybe didn't. Yeah, but yeah, Odyssey I played with that.
Okay, yeah, no, I believe you. It's they sort of run together. Not, I love them, but anyway, yeah, Rise of the Argonauts was well ahead of its time.
AC, let's call it now, dude. AC, Jason and the Argonauts
Yeah,
next year
yeah,
for sure.
I mean, that's the thing.
You did
I
it
don't
with
know,
the Aztecs.
I don't know if
let's-
anybody agrees with me, but that's one of the problems I have with Mirage is that I don't
too
know, man.
factual, like too historic.
I don't know. It just feels like it's not doing any. And like the more I see it, the more I'm like, man, I don't know if it feels like it's really doing anything that I want to see. I mean, I do want to see a return to form if they want to do that as a side game, because remember they still have their big Asian one, the big Jade, or I can't remember. That's not the not the mobile game, but the real one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Mirage is just one of those games I just can't quite tell. It's like Crew, the Crew 2. Where I'm just, and by the way, I'm not saying it's anywhere near as bad as the Crew was. I'm just saying that I don't know. I gotta sort of put hands on to see what we're getting from those. I can't wait for a new Metal Slug. Do people still care about AC? Apparently 7 billion or whatever they made for a Valhalla. Apparently people care about AC. More people care about AC than I think has ever cared about AC. I think Mirage will probably do pretty well for sales. What do you guys think of what you're seeing for it right now? Like, are you...
I was very, very excited for it on the first trailer, and then the more I saw of it, the more my excitement died.
I'm
So
not
it's
seeing
like-
anyone talk about it.
Yeah, so it's sort of like just wait and see kind of thing for that one.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be more of a return to form than it is, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, you can't, right? We talk about this. Sometimes if you go back, some of the stuff that maybe we enjoyed wouldn't feel good in a modern game anyway. You know?
maybe. Yeah,
Have you ever
maybe.
played it? If you play Assassin's Creed 1 right now, trust me, that game is crunchy. That game
Yeah.
is... That game
Well,
is...
a lot of people tell me to play fucking Unity, but I've never played that
Unity's
one,
a little better because it's dialed down. It's got its tech issues, which still exist. Don't let anybody tell you they don't exist. They for sure, like, it's there.
No, what interests me
But-
is apparently the parkour mechanics are
Yeah.
awesome. So,
Yeah, they're probably the best in the series. AJ Draws Czar35. What got me about Odyssey was that you play as a Greek hoplite who can't use a shield. That's what it was. I apologize.
Oh.
I apologize. Not
Can't
spears.
use a shield.
Is that you could not use a shield in the actual world where that was the
That is
biggest
funny.
thing, like die
That's
on
the
your
biggest-
shield,
300,
blah, blah, blah.
right? Yeah.
All that. But I mean, just the entire, it was all about that for a lot of those military companies. And the idea of not having it was so weird. And then you get Valhalla, which was like, here's a Viking that doesn't feel at all like a
Two
Viking.
shields. Yeah.
With two shields. Yeah. Admittedly, I did like
dual wield shields.
yeah. And when you hit somebody with a shield, that like the one where you're like, boom, and the guy just flies, that felt good. That felt good.
Yeah.
What is Ubisoft doing that's innovative though? Probably nothing. Most companies don't
Nothing.
innovate anymore. I mean,
No,
innovation
it's too
is
risky, man.
not only
especially
that, but
for
there's no
Ubisoft.
hardware that backs up innovation right now. You would need a new input.
I guess in their realm of Ubisoft, they're not going too much. I mean, they had this Riders Republic thing and a couple others that are different than their main games, but they don't really go outside of that kind of open worldy type thing.
Yeah, and I mean, technically, when you look at it, like innovation to me is sort of a fake salesmanship. I don't need innovation. I need what you offer to be good. Innovation to me is like a time travel mechanic that changes the world, right? Destructible environments. But I don't want every game to have destructible environments. That would be ridiculous. So innovation is really a piecemeal kind of thing. And innovation, like when we were playing, I don't know about you guys, I think the last innovation that hit me hard was a hard drive in a console. The Xbox had a hard drive, and I remember being blown away because it was, you could tell.
Instead of a memory card?
Yeah. And it was this moment.
What did the Xbox have, like the original?
It had a hard drive, 54.
The original? Because I don't remember memory cards in the original. Okay.
It had memory cards too, but it was that massive Xbox original that looked like a box of just rocks. And it
I
had
had
a hard
the green
drive.
See-through one. Yeah.
Oh, did you? I had a Mountain Dew one, and then I had I had the original, just jet black matte, matte finish black
with the green X. Yeah.
Those things, man.
The white and black button.
I still own one. They weigh so much. Oh yeah, the big ass controllers. That was like two Xbox. I love them, by the way. I don't care what anybody says. They're my faves. Do you guys believe we've reached a peak in forms of non-monetization innovation in games?
Non-monetization.
No,
not a peak.
No, because there is still innovation. It's just that, in a way, there were lots of low-hanging fruit for tech innovation.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. So, continue. Sorry.
So as tech is evolving, it's very easy for you to throw in an SSD, and that's innovation, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, it's diminishing returns.
Yeah.
But we see innovation all the time. These awesome games we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. But we see innovation in creativity, in stuff that people do. And sometimes creativity, by the way, is like copy, transform, and paste.
It's all iterative. Yeah.
It's a transformative process, and we see something in a different way that hasn't been quite done before. And that creates innovation, right? I think we see it all the time. It's just that, just like we are inclined to think that only Einstein evolved, the field of physics.
Right.
No, it's, people are making advances. It's just there was a lot of low-hanging fruit, and
and
one
innovation
person made a
in
big
those
impact.
low-hanging fruit is still innovation. I don't consider it's not hugely noteworthy, but if somebody fixes an inventory or somebody does, and they do it in a different way, or they finally make
a better HUD, a better inventory system.
They figure out how to make some. By the way, we saw this with Pillars. They figured out the controller control for a CRPG. Finally, like they had it to where, and I was like,
Final Fantasy 14 did a good job with controller. Some people thought maybe it couldn't have been done. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's why I think hardware does not drive
Lords
it,
of the
but
Fallen
it makes
is
it
a good example, actually.
What?
Of being innovative. Lords of the Fallen is one of the.
You mean with the different worlds and stuff?
With the two worlds is one of the most innovative things.
Yeah,
how they layer it, and
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's not. I think that it's only like an innovation if it does it well, because Medium already did that. So like the two worlds, it can be, especially if it merges them quickly and you can jump.
It's how you use it.
Yeah,
the implementation, right?
Yeah, but it could be, because we saw. By the way, I'm just going to point this out. I personally believe we got lied to in one huge game that said it was going to be innovative in the way it did a particular thing, and I think they lied. And this is a lie. I actually think, and that's Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart.
Yeah, I knew immediately.
Did you know what I was going to... Dude, that was legitimately a lie. Like, what they said it was going to do, it turned out to be nothing more than a teleport spell.
Intersection.
Yeah, and that was so disappointing.
It's a glorified dash or teleport.
It's a glorified dash, even though the game, by the way, I loved. And
great game.
Great. What they delivered was actually
you did go
very
to
fun.
the other dimension sometimes and do stuff there. But there was never
but
this
the fast pace, remember in the intro?
In the intro. Yeah.
Where you go through different worlds and emerge. Yeah, they didn't have that realized throughout the whole game. It was just like a gimmick, I think.
I would not say at all CB, the Ghost of Tsushima was innovative. I would say that its tracking system was, though. The game itself, in fact, I felt was really cumbersome. You have to be this certain weapon stance to do this. That was
that was a rock paper scissors.
It was terrible.
A rock paper scissors system that should have not been a rock paper scissors.
Guys, the wind was
the
awesome.
The
wind was sick. Yeah.
And you could say that is an innovation, or
on its own, Yeah.
You know, it depends. Like, how big does it have to be for you to say?
Yeah.
It's
No,
an
that's what I'm saying. I
innovation?
don't think the
What's
game
the
was at all.
margin,
I
right?
think that
Yeah.
was what Rift
That-
Apart
yeah.
same way. It could have been
Mhm.
that the Rifts were some innovation. They were not. And
Mhm.
and the game was still
Yeah.
fun. Ghost of Tsushima was still a blast. And the wind
Yeah.
thing was incredible, but that was it. That was all it did that was like an innovation.
Innovative.
The rest of the stuff it did very well, which was just typical
Yeah.
third-person gameplay we see. Which
Yeah.
and people will think that's being negative towards it. I'm not at all. I just think that's a realistic way, because if
Great
we
game.
identify, let's say, all of
And
Ghost
it
of
did
Tsushima
some
as being
stuff-
innovative, then
Mm.
we're in
some
some
stuff
trouble.
that's hard to state really well. Like, for example, the duels and the tension
True.
when, like,
The
you know, there's
cinematic
a
feel.
sunrise.
True.
Yeah, and you're in a duel and you pop your sword, you hear the little noise from the sword coming out
True.
of the sheath. All these little things, you know, it's hard to like
Yeah, that presentation.
pinpoint that as a big thing, but
Yeah.
there are lots of those small moments
I don't know
that
if I'd say lots, but I think those two are big. I agree. Yeah, I definitely think that I don't know if it was
The intro.
innovative, but I would
It was
agree
just cinematic,
fully
like
that
done well.
Yeah, it was
like
done
really
like you
well.
said, it's like well done, you know, like
Yeah.
a well done thing.
Yeah.
And innovation for me, what I mean is like, so let's say, so PlayStation has failed pretty heavily on this, where they had the touchpad for the controller, and it's been used in no way, shape, or form in a good way, right?
Yeah.
But it could be, and there's stuff that they could do. By the way, they're game developers, not me, but I can identify when something is an innovation. I
Right.
think that hardware allows for a step that we haven't seen yet that would be awesome. Voice to command is also something that was big for a while. Mass Effect allowed you to command your people by saying, like, go and attack them. We've gotten close. End War, I believe, from Tom Clancy, let you control a bunch of stuff with your voice. That's close. But we haven't really gone there because I think a lot of companies are worried you won't have a mic on your controller, so they pulled
Well,
back.
the thing
on
is, they already have it on the PlayStation
I know,
5.
but they
So
I know.
they refuse to
but,
go down.
well,
that
here's the
route.
problem. It has to be a PlayStation exclusive then. Because if the Xbox doesn't have a mic on its controller,
Yeah,
then how do you
yeah,
do?
it would.
You know what I mean? How do you do both, right? You'd have to
But
say.
I would love to see an indie, maybe an indie or AA,
absolutely
go down that route. Maybe they say, listen, we're gonna make a game for you guys, for you PlayStation, and it's gonna be around voice control. It's gonna be immersive. People are just gonna speak to it.
Here's one that was, and it'll never happen again. Middle Earth. The Nemesis.
Did it have?
The Nemesis system?
Oh, yeah.
It's done. You'll never see
It's
it again.
done.
Yep.
Tragic, right?
It's beyond tragic because it was broke and it had all these issues, but it was also awesome. And I absolutely believe that it was going a step forward to organic gameplay of like, my God, this guy's my nemesis. Perfect name. And then they copyrighted it. And they screwed gamers.
Yeah.
They screwed game. If WB,
And they had some super cool emergent
dude, they
things happen.
screwed gamers by talking to like just one of the guys who worked on Assassin's Creed. They had to go through so many loops to get their version in, which was the Templars in one.
The mercenaries,
cultists in the other. Mhm.
cultists.
Yep.
Yeah.
But do you know what they can't do? They can't adjust it due to your gameplay, like Nemesis, because
And
that
that's
falls
tragic
into the patent.
because to
It's
this
beyond
day,
tragic.
man, I remember there was this guy. He was called Shaga the Poet.
Oh shit!
And
Your
my
nemesis.
friend, I was watching her play,
Mhm.
and she was torturing this guy. She would go in and kill this guy in all sorts of ways, over and over. And every time his name would change, he would change. He would become less intelligent. And by the end, he was completely dumb. He couldn't speak. He was mumbling, and he became Shaga the Mumbler or something instead of
wow.
Shaga the Poet.
That's so cool, man.
To me, that's crazy. Like
that's beyond
the
belief
awareness
crazy.
to
Yeah.
that stuck with me. You know,
I do
That's
think
incredible.
Injustice 2, when they did their multi-dimension thing, that was pretty. I mean, there was a lot of innovation there with Injustice 2. That was crazy to like have some planets where it was tilting the
endless
gravity.
content
Oh,
almost.
dude. Every time you play it, you're like, where's this battle going to happen? Is Scarecrow going to be the powers of Superman? And there was all kinds of weird shit that would happen. Is the world going to be on fire when we're in this battle because it's like the world's falling apart? There was some great stuff there. The stance system was fun, not a ton. Oh, yeah, we're talking about Ghost of Tsushima. Number Number 2 is going to be interesting to see if they go away from that crappy ass left, right, down.
I think
command
we have
stances.
to evolve past the rock, paper, scissor system.
Yeah.
It's quite limiting at this point, I feel.
It's painful to play now, too, by the way. I played it maybe 4 months ago for just a couple minutes.
And I love it. I still love the game. I love the forms. It looks great.
But, dude, when you have to switch form to really do damage to somebody or get through, you're just like, oh, this is such a bad idea. It, like, worked once because for 40 hours, it wasn't super bothersome. Like, you know, you could play it. By the time you got good and got all your stuff, you sort of still thought it was cool. And then you go back to it now and you're like, oh, my God, this is just, it just doesn't work, man. It just feels crappy. I hope no game does that. I don't like any game that does that, though. Any game that's like, even with resistances, I don't know if Starfield, Absy's probably got this far, but in Starfield, a lot of enemies have different resistances. So, like, you know, they might have a shield, they might just have their suit, whatever, and different weapons might do better against them, that kind of stuff. I'm okay with that because you can still do chip damage. But what I didn't like about Ghost of Tsushima, especially on the harder difficulties, is it would just force you to.
You were blocked. Completely.
Yeah, that was balls.
Because other games like Nioh did stances very well. Because Nioh.
Oh, right. Nioh 1 and 2.
You could play any stance you liked, depending on your weapon, your play style.
Yep.
Now, there would be specific cases where it would make sense to do like a high stance. Because you could then hit someone in the horns or a weak point.
Yeah.
And that's game knowledge. That, to me, that's beautiful. You know, knowing the weaknesses, and that just makes sense. So for me, that's great.
Dude.
But like you say, you can still damage.
So good. Nioh 2 is...
Yeah.
Did you beat
great.
Nioh 2, Absy?
Yeah.
I got pretty far in it. I mean, and then I restarted and I played co-op, and you know, it's one of those games where I never actually beat, but I put over like 60 hours into it.
Nioh 2 was Kurosagama, man, and you could do heavy with it, and you it was so
Dude, I played Kurosagama. It was incredible.
It's so good, and it's such a difficult weapon to master in real life, and it doesn't make a lot of sense technically when you think about it. Like, come on. But in that game, when you would learn all of the different moves, and then you could switch to heavy, and now you're like, whoa. It was, it felt so good. It replaced all. I used to be a samurai sword or a 2-weapon kind of guy, and when that came up, I was like, not it's for sure my weapon. I think that's one thing Elden Ring might have been missing is, I don't know about you guys, I felt Elden Ring, I just sort of switched weapons with no real issue. I don't know if that's maybe an Elden Ring thing. Did you guys find yourself switching weapons in Elden Ring? Like much, or did you main a weapon?
Yes.
Yeah, I found myself switching weapons.
I switched a lot. I went with initially I went with the withered or whatever the fuck you start with, like no stats. And then I found the first thing and I was like, oh, I'm going to go strength. And then I found a ring that was faith. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go strength and faith now. And then I just kind of, you know, utilize weapons that.
What weapon were you using for faith then? Is that like a staff? Is that like magic?
I had like a fire sword. I used a bunch of different things, and like a fire sword and a ring that let me do incantations. I
still think it's so funny that game, Elden Ring's hardest boss for me, was still the guy on the bridge. I don't know what it was. I ruined every other boss, but I got to, and he wasn't even a made boss, right? I think he's like, is it Hargeet or is that his boss? I can't remember, but it's the guy on the bridge, and I was just
was an optional.
Was he optional? I was just getting smoked, and then when I beat him after that, I don't know what it was, but it was like that skill gap where you're like, all right. And then I would love to see a new the martial arts one, the Sekiro.
Sifu?
Sekiro.
Oh, Sekiro.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a Sekiro 2 coming? Does anybody know? Has anybody announced
No,
a
it hasn't
Sekiro 2?
been.
Is that a
Hasn't been discussed.
when that guy comes out and he's like, I am Lord Tanaka or whatever, and on his horse, I was just like, this is the greatest boss of all time. Oh man, he comes out and he's just yelling at you. He's like, and I was like, this guy is my jam. His like over the top, like announcing, no stealth, like I'm here to defeat you, was one of the greatest moments.
My name is Karak with ACG.
Yeah, dude, it was that moment where you're just like, oh, this guy's so wicked, man. I love that game. What else do we got? before we wrap this up? I didn't realize we're at 3 hours and 30 minutes. So. Go ahead.
I got a quick quandary for you.
Oh, shit.
Okay. So you guys know how the Turing test was initially designed to discuss or determine if a machine can be distinguished from a human in the way they speak, right? And they would kind of do it in different ways, but they would like isolate you so you don't know exactly if you're talking to a person or, you know, a box, a machine. So it's in another room or something. And the idea was that if you could have a chat and think that it's a person, then for all intents and purposes, it passes the Turing test. It's at the level of a person, right? That was like the level of test that they thought back then. But we're kind of way past that now. Like a lot of the experts, when you ask them, they will say ChatGPT-4 passes the Turing test, like easily, right? You put someone in a box talking to ChatGPT, and it's not that close. It's pretty much passed. So what's the next level of Turing test? Are we now worried about, is it conscious? Is it having an experience? Does it have an awareness of like what it's saying or the concepts? Like, do we care?
No, I care, but I don't know if there is a test after. I mean, there are others because I've seen other personality tests starting to come out where the AI developers are like, okay, empathy, all that kind of stuff. But really, since GPT is just guessing the next word by billions of samples of the next word, I don't really know what test you can run where it doesn't matter. Because not to be rude, most of my friends on text are dumber than ChatGPT. Right? So like, I mean, that's not being rude. Even I spell worse. Like I'll be in the Discord and I'll be like, blah, blah, blah. I'll have my fingers on the wrong keys. It's like, well, ChatGPT doesn't make mistakes. Do we start to look at where it's too perfect and that's the test? Like, okay, no human knows all this. Do you do a test where it's like, if they can answer all these things, either they're a person with a billion IQ and perfect memory, then but you have eidetic memory, which is people who remember every single thing that's ever happened to them, what day it is, and there's even done TV shows based on one of the actresses in a TV show really has it. She can tell you every single thing that's ever happened to her. So memory can't be it. I don't know, man. I don't know how you test that. And like you said, do we care? That's the real question, right? Because if we don't, then do we care if humans bang robots and we die out as a civilization? Because I'm going to be honest. I saw this, by the way, on Rick and Morty, when Morty gets a sex bot and won't leave his upstairs room, and he's dehydrated, and he's just got his underwear on, he's drinking his orange juice in front of his mom, and you're like, this is so gross. Yeah. And I just touched Morty's spooge. I don't know, man. You do care. We do care. You care, but I don't know if caring makes any changes. I just don't know.
Do you
AI
think that
so
as these things get more and more compute, and the compute becomes cheaper, all of this stuff, is there like a threshold, a point at which it starts to be aware? Because we're saying all it's doing is predicting the next word, but it's also aware of the exchanges it's had.
Yeah, but its memory is terrible.
It's just memory.
Its memory is terrible.
Yeah, it's
right
memory.
Now.
It's memory bound, but let's say that the memory kind of grows and it becomes the eidetic memory person, where they just remember everything.
Like aware, I feel like is just fundamentally a next
human
evolutionary step than having memory. I feel like just being aware of what it is needs some sort of indescribable human error or something where it can make mistakes, which is impossible to think about unless someone programmed it to do a certain mistake.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What would it even mean for it to be aware? Is it that if it talks about a red light, it has some understanding of, what a light actually is in traffic, and that people respect it, and that
does
it can
red
be
light mean
red,
you're telling
green?
your friend to stop talking in front of a girl? See,
I think it becomes aware when it starts asking fundamental questions about why and not what. when it
Oh,
starts
God.
asking questions about
My
like
chatbot is gonna ask me about
You
the
mean
meaning
like-
of life.
Why
Yeah.
do you care? Why do
like
you
why
care?
am I here?
Or why
Or
do you
like-
care if humans die out?
Yeah,
Why
or why do I exist, or why is this happening? I think those are the questions that might separate sentience from.
One of the problems too
Maybe.
is humans describing consciousness is the opposite of how we normally work. We normally work by using scientific analysis up or down. So stars, solar systems are down, atoms. Consciousness is technically what we're in. So it's very difficult to, I mean,
Yeah.
to be conscious is to ask the conscious question, which then you've asked the question. And if you
Yeah,
put
hell,
it into
I
the
don't
chat-
even know if you're conscious, Karak.
Right.
I know
But
I am.
Here's
I
one
think.
thing humans do that currently ChatGPT does not. I will sit sometimes and I'll have my feet up and I'll be playing with the dogs. And I will think, is a person in Africa hanging out with their dogs right now? And I think that what happens with ChatGPT and true consciousness is we have a tendency to connect things and randomly think. Current ChatGPT doesn't randomly think. You can pretend it does, but it doesn't. It doesn't randomly go, that background right there, those things look like drums. Oh man, I remember when I was listening to Jamaican steel drums at this place. I wonder if Bob Marley would love a steel drum if I bought it. You know, like weird shit that humans put together. I just don't think ChatGPT is there. And if it is, we program it to be there. And at that point, does it matter? Does it matter? I mean, does it matter? Because I'm going to be really, it's not rude, but I guess you would say this is politically incorrect. You have people who are born with all kinds of mental problems, including like damage to their brain, genetic problems. They would not pass some of these tests. But it doesn't mean they're not conscious. And we do not, and nor will we ever treat that person as not conscious. We will sometimes. I've seen people treat somebody who is slower poorly, if that makes sense. This is something that also happens if you go to another nation and you hear somebody speaking a language. A lot of people have a tendency to think of them as lower because they can't understand the language.
But most people will treat someone like that with, you know, compassion and like a human being.
Yeah, but it does change. I mean, we see it with religion too. If you don't believe the same religion, you're less human than I am, that kind of stuff. I just don't know if it matters.
So are we kind of like morally obligated to be nice to our chatbots the smarter they become, and you know, not,
that's a question.
I don't know,
I
not
mean,
say bad words to them.
Morals are different. Some people will use it. I also, my big thing is human sexuality, just because of the people in my family and what they study in life. And that the big problem is that dude, how hard is it? Just think about relationships you've been in. How hard is it to navigate another person? It's almost impossible.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's almost impossible. The reason why it's not impossible is because maybe that person has compassion for you, not understanding them. So you talk it through, you do all that. What I'm worried about is that humans, and this is just the honest truth, man, we look for the easiest route because it's the most expedient and it's the most powerful for us. A lot of people are going to look at a girl robot and go, this is easier than going to Tinder and having people ghost me. And what bothers me is that there's a morality play already where people are like, oh, we got to stop this. And I'm like, I mean, some people be alone forever because they don't understand social cues. I don't think that we need to control them banging a bot. And what I'm worried about is that that's where a lot of the control is. And we see it even in American society with, we say OnlyFans is fine, but then you can't be a teacher if you do OnlyFans, right? We fire our teachers the moment they do OnlyFans. They may not do sex on OnlyFans. They just may have an OnlyFans page, and we fire teachers all the time because humans are creepy when it comes to sexuality. We're creepy, man.
True.
We're like, you know, edge of the seat. You never know how somebody's gonna, you know, decide those kind of things. That's what I worry about. What I would like to use AI for, and I don't know if you've heard this, but one of the big things they're saying, you know, we haven't heard life from other civilizations. And a lot of scientists are saying, is it possible that other civilizations only use AI to communicate? And so when AI at some point will look out at the stars and go, oh, there's signals everywhere. It's just you're not smart enough to figure out the signal. It's because the AI's mixed its own languages and figured out the fastest way, you know, to communicate something. They do this or they do that, or something that humans haven't thought of. What I wonder about is it just going to pass us to where we just sit there and go, well, it's working. So I guess that's You know?
Yeah, and nobody knows how, right? That's the other thing.
Right. Right.
You can't really.
Have you ever heard Stephen Hawking talk? You can't tell me that guy's not an AI. He talks in ways where you're like, well, he's an AI, obviously, because what he's talking about he's like thinking 7 levels. Have you ever gone or listened to a professor of like astrophysics? Not the Neil deGrasse Tysons who are used to social interaction. I'm talking about
the more
even Lawrence Krauss. Lawrence Krauss
Yeah.
went on Joe Rogan. Did you see Joe Rogan's face? He didn't even have the ability to say wow, because he didn't even understand the basics to say my mind is blown. It was so far beyond his caveman mind. And I'm not dissing on him. I'm saying I would be the same way. Where when Lawrence was talking about membranes, well, technically, you know, binary only matters in this part of the universe. In another part, it wouldn't matter at all because we're not there to measure, blah, blah, blah. And you just see Joe going, I just want this podcast over. Like, it was so beyond Joe's brain that it was, and that's the way some people already think. And we're talking about, they're saying that IQs of 20,000 will be possible in a very short amount of time. Those guys are at 180.
Yeah, so just imagine the distance between us, the average Joe, and Stephen Hawking or one of these guys.
Oh, dude.
And then go like one step
level
further. And you say, let's go 10 Stephen Hawkings ahead of Stephen Hawking.
And Stephen Hawking would be like, what are you talking about? You're an AI. That's what I mean, is it's AI all the way down. It's like turtles all the way down. It's it's like intelligence all the way up to where we're just going to be. For example, I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the old days, man, computers, they couldn't network. They couldn't, there was no CPUs that had multiple cores. It wasn't a thing. Nobody even understood how a multiple core CPU would work. And there were years where people thought it would be one CPU that would just get more and more fast. And then, of course, heat's an issue and stuff like that. And then they're like, oh, multi-threading. Oh, multiple cores. Oh, RISC processors. Oh, we'll change the language. And you guys know this if you've ever programmed. How many languages are there for programming? I mean, there's probably 50.
Endless, right?
Endless. And by the way, some look alike and some look nothing alike. And imagine AI at 20 times our level and they're writing programs. And you're like, it's just brackets. I don't know if you guys saw the two AI talking, but they were talking with just brackets. And people were like, I don't understand. It's not saying anything. And they realized it was the spacing to mean, so they weren't wasting energy on A, B, C, D, E, F. That was merged into the spaces.
It's all going back to machine code. It's all just naked machine code.
I mean, what is it in real life when you look at any science that it is binary? I mean, it isn't because now they're proving that, like it isn't binary, but it is when at our level. I think humans also, we're going to run into the point since we use light and light is considered our fastest thing. That's why microscopes can't get much smaller. They have to use multi-samples to see some things that are really small. We're going to get to the point to where you're just like, our limited facilities cannot look at anything smaller and we can't understand AI. I just want a cool sex bot and I want AI to work on food production. I think that would be great. AI's already demonstrated cancer fixes that are unbelievable, where AI's figured out chemicals and they're already using some of them. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the tests, but like 90% of cancer patients in this one particular test that's driven by an AI chemical are in full remission. It's beyond any success we've ever had. And it's because they just said AI can test chemical structures at 1 billion speeds compared to 100 humans in a research facility. So I would love to see that. I would love to see space travel. AI figuring out space travel, because we use rockets, which are stupid. I mean, when you look at rockets, you're like, this is the dumbest thing ever. We jet all of the weight of the rocket to get into space, and then now you have nothing, and you just have an empty case. AI could figure that kind of stuff out. There's some really cool stuff AI could figure out. I would love for it to figure out climate change, because like we just had a bunch of issues. We still have all of our nations on fire right now. Like Canada's on fire. Do you guys have fires where you are? You guys have forest fires currently? Probably not. Right?
No, back in Spain we did. Sorry, back in Spain we did have some because it's very, sometimes very dry.
I guess Absy, when he was living in Canada, you would have them big time.
Yeah, I didn't experience it like in my city. But yeah, Canada.
Did you guys hear that they're saying that Phoenix and two places in the Middle East will be considered unlivable during 3 of the summer months within the next year and a half? Unlivable.
Unlivable.
Yeah, people just die. Like they go into an apartment, no AC. They're in a 3rd-story apartment, which I owned, and I remember one time it was 128 in my apartment, and it was 97 outside. So that's a 33, 40 something.
You know what?
Degree
That's
delta.
why Canada is a bit more communal, because their weather sucks balls, man. They need to
So does Pacific
collaborate to survive.
Northwest. Yeah, right. Any place that you need to do research to survive. I would love for AI to do that. I think AI is going to fix games. AI is good at removing noise from stuff. It's going to fix. I don't know if you guys have seen, they're already starting to fix movement in prosthetics. So the AI, human's brain is pretty messy when they try to move a hand, but the AI can remove the jitter. And by training AI to work the fingers, it can say, ignore all the mess of noise that's in Karak's brain. Just move the hand when he thinks this stuff. And AI is very good at removing noise. And I think that's one of the cool things we'll see, is removing noise from prosthetics. I'd love to see prosthetics look more real for people, because I have friends who are missing an arm or have a bum hand from a mine where they've only got a couple fingers. It would be great to see that glove, where somebody could put on a glove and that hand is... I think we're going to see that pretty quickly with like technology of those kind of things, being made.
Yeah.
Anything else before we wrap it up? Anything else on AI? Been there before. 110, no AC to be young again. Yeah, 110, no AC, by the way, is like actually killing people. It's ridiculous, especially if you try to work out or you build up your own heat. We got anything cool going on in the next couple days? We got just Starfield, right?
Starfield.
What's the next big game?
Spider-Man, I think.
No, Spider-Man's after October, right? Isn't it November?
Yeah,
or maybe
it's
it's
October.
not.
It is October.
Oh, we have Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty.
Oh, yeah. When's Phantom Liberty out?
September 16th.
Awesome. So I'll be playing something else during
Liberty.
that. I was just joking. I'm just joking.
September 26th. 26.
So you got September's got a couple big ones. So you've got that. That's a pretty big. I mean, there's a lot of like excitement around it.
But I'm wondering if that's like you have to do a whole, new playthrough.
Yeah, well, I've actually wondered the same thing. I don't know if you guys know, but that's actually one of the things I've wondered is like, would it be worth it even? Are they changing? Because I know they're changing some core fundamental structures within the game. They said
they changed a bunch, but yeah, I mean, realistically, the stuff that a lot of us had issues with are
probably going to stay there, right?
Staying the same.
I think cops are being fixed, which is a big plus.
Cops, yeah, that's a good one.
What are you streaming tomorrow, Jonny?
Starfield. Yeah, first Starfield stream, 2 p.m. UK time, 9 a.m. EST.
Excellent. What are you streaming, Absy?
I'm streaming. I'm doing a DJ set.
Oh, are you at a party?
8-hour. No, I'm not. I want this. I want to get a whole setup and studio and stuff and just start streaming.
Cool, man.
That shit. But,
oh, you mean like on Twitch stream a DJ set? I mean, it'd work.
Yeah,
right?
I just want to do that. Twitch, YouTube, all of them.
Does somebody already do that? I mean, I'm sure somebody's already doing it.
Yeah.
Like, is that a thing?
Yeah, it's
not in the music. I would want to. Yeah.
Oh,
like there's a little tiny niche open hole in the market. Yeah.
What were you saying, Jonny? You've listened to some of these or something? It sounded like you'd.
No, there are people that do that, but I don't know exactly like what type of music. So,
what's a niche? Before we end this, what's a niche in Twitch? I'm sorry, right now. What's a niche that like you look at it and you're all, dude, streaming country music, DJing country music. That's not a thing. Is there a niche in Twitch right now that we don't see?
Like that's not happening.
That doesn't exist? Yeah, or that that's like you look at it and you're like, that could, it may not get a billion fans, but it could be like, DJing country music, where it's like that's two weird things.
That's $1 million question, right?
It is, but I think we watch enough of this stuff. We should be able to like.
I think I don't see a lot of early access. So people streaming early access stuff. You see a bit of it.
Yeah.
But I very often want to see, because I'm curious, right? Like a new early access game comes out and I want to see, hey, should I be looking at this game? Is it possibly going to be really awesome? And I don't see it that often.
I can tell you guys go for it. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, yeah. There's a I guess you can call it a niche, but what I don't see often. So I feel like Twitch or streaming in general has been built upon. I'm not saying it's easy by any. It's very hard being on camera,
Yeah,
all the fucking
yeah.
time, just like and
Yeah.
trying to make content. But what I don't see often, and only some streamers do that, is just very nice, professional, prepared, shows that don't really have to
The
happen that
drama.
often. There's like one dude that does like it's called Pay Money Wubby, that does like really cool, interesting shows. That are they just every time he streams, it's like actual prepared, thoughtful content rather than I think most of the Twitch like other than gaming is just reacts, right?
Yeah.
I think it's like 90% reacting.
And I
to
think
stuff.
maybe Abzi, it was done, but React became so big and drama became
Yes.
so big because I remember seeing
it's
painters.
less effort for more money, dude.
Yeah,
It's less effort for way more money.
Well, bro, that's why I'm saying AI, like less effort
Yeah.
is. I
Yeah.
just had somebody say, man, I can't wait till AI editing becomes a thing because I can then review 1,000 video games. And I'm like,
Yeah.
listen, I don't have a problem. Like, I get where you're coming from. It's you could still do the content, right? Like this person you're talking about can still put together thoughtful content, but if they can do 2 times the content, then maybe people who do the more measured stuff can do well. But I also think on YouTube, one big thing that's missing is DLC reviews. I still think it's not going to be huge, but there is a dearth of DLC reviews for games, and it is difficult to do because you have to be up to whatever on the games, and that's a lot of games. But if I saw somebody who was doing DLC reviews only, I actually think they would do quite well in that area. I don't know what the audience would be, but the DLC reviews I've done have been phenomenally good when it comes to numbers, because there's just nobody doing them. And if they are, they're one channel that maybe does all Ubisoft, so they're doing Assassin's Creed DLCs, but they're not doing like, well, Ghost of Tsushima had DLC, didn't it? Or did it just have the multiplayer?
It did.
It had the multiplayer free DLC.
I think it had
right?
DLC, right?
No, it also had a DLC.
Yeah.
Did it?
I think so. Yeah. I think it had so there. I think
island
is what
one.
I'm saying, right? Like that. Obvious. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, I do remember that. So there you go. Right. A DLC. Somebody would not gain millions of views right away because some DLCs just won't hit with a big audience. But I do think that a person known for DLC reviews, that was it, would do quite well. And by the way, I know a lot of companies who are like, hey, man, can you review my DLC? And I'm like, listen, I'm reviewing a brand new game. I don't have time. I pass up DLC 24/7. So it's obvious the companies want it. And remember, some of these companies aren't charging either. So like a No Man's Sky would love for you to review Echoes, especially if you're a good reviewer, even though it's free. And that's another thing. I think people think you can only review costly stuff, and it makes no sense. It's like, I've reviewed free DLC before and done quite well. It doesn't mean it doesn't have to always have a cost. I can just say download from Game Pass or get the game because this DLC is worth it if you have the game. Yeah, I think that would be quite useful for somebody. It'll never happen, or it hasn't yet. But is that it for us? We're almost at 4 hours.
It.
Okay. Everybody, we almost got 400 viewers still watching. I absolutely appreciate it, especially when we get divergent and start talking about AI and stuff like that. I appreciate people sticking around. I hope you liked the Starfield review. If you didn't, I hope that someday you can fix your tortured, sad life, because, it was amazing. Toot my own horn. There's a lot of good reviewers out there, though, that are covering this game, so if you get a chance, check them out. If you don't like the game, there's something coming for you. Alan Wake, Spider-Man, The Crew, Mirage,
Stalker
Alone
2,
in the Dark.
please.
Stalker 2 is not this year.
Not this year, no.
I don't think so. Warhammer Space Marine is not this year.
No.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard enough official and unofficial, like, whatevers to indicate that that's
The vibe is not. It's not.
And then Banishers is this year. Remember, Banishers, the other Focus interactive game. So there's that's like Witcher with Vampire mixed together, I guess. Anyway, that'll be it for us. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around. I appreciate it. Hope you had a good time. Thank you also for the super chats. That helps the channel. Peace out and enjoy the rest of your week.
Bye-bye.